Chapter 2269, 2269 Sword Classic. 2269 Sword Classic. Suzimo cupped his fists towards the old man beside the secret pavilion and entered after bowing. The fragrance of ancient books wafted over. After Suzimo entered the secret pavilion, the door behind him closed on its own. The light in the secret pavilion was dim. However, Suzimo's eyesight was extremely strong, having cultivated to this point as he scanned the place without any obstructions. In the secret pavilion, there were neat bookshelves that were roughly divided into cultivation techniques, secret skills, immortal arts, elixir pills, array formations, weapon refinement. Every single type of bookshelf was lined with various cultivation techniques. Some of them were in the form of ancient scrolls, some of them were bamboo scrolls, some of them only had a single beast hide, and some of them were jade scrolls. Suzimo first arrived at the cultivation technique section and casually picked up an ancient scroll and took a look. Destiny Dark Spirit Technique. The contents of the cultivation technique were not complicated. Suzimo merely browsed through it briefly and understood most of it. He memorized the cultivation technique silently and told the Martial Dao Prime Body, who was far away in the Fiend domain. There was no need for the Green Lotus True Body to cultivate these cultivation techniques. To be precise, the cultivation techniques in the Earthgrade Secret Pavilion were not worth his time and energy to cultivate. None of the cultivation techniques here could compare to the taboo mystic classic, the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. Perhaps he could find some secret skills that were helpful to him on the other bookshelves. For example, Suzimo was prepared to cultivate the lifespan sacrifice art released by Yi Fei in the Nine Heavens. Before long, the contents of the Destiny Dark Spirit technique were revealed to the Martial Dao Prime Body. Suzimo continued watching. White Feather Spirit Manual. Mirror Dharmic Art. Heaven Seeking Manual. Fiend Suppression Manual. Divine Dream Mystic Classic. The Green Lotus True Body memorized cultivation techniques one after another and told everything to the Martial Dao Prime Body. Unknowingly, a day had passed and Suzimo had just browsed through more than 100 cultivation techniques. It was not even a fraction of the secret pavilion. Suzimo rubbed his glabella gently to calm himself down. With enough time, he could transfer all the cultivation techniques in the secret pavilion to the Martial Dao Prime Body slowly. This matter could not be rushed. He casually picked up an ancient piece of white paper. Sword Classic. There were 2 words written on the top of the white paper. However, the edge of the paper was damaged and was clearly torn apart. It was incomplete and was only the size of a palm. There seemed to be something else before the words Sword Classic. However, the white paper was torn beyond recognition and there was only half of the sutra on it. Suzimo could not understand it at all. Suzimo did not think too much about it and still wanted to memorize the incomplete Sword Sutra before imparting it to the Martial Dao Prime Body. However, something strange happened. After Suzimo memorized it once, when he wanted to impart the words of the Sword Classic to the Martial Dao Prime Body, he suddenly realized that he could not remember a single word of the Sword Sutra that he had just memorized. His mind was completely blank. Suzimo frowned slightly. His gaze swept past the Sword Classic and the few paragraphs of the Sword Sutra that he had memorized earlier on resurfaced in his mind. When he wanted to tell the words to the Martial Dao Prime Body, they vanished once more and the latter could not obtain anything. Strange. Suzimo was puzzled. This time round, he memorized the Sword Classic repeatedly to ensure that he remembered them clearly. He did not impart them to the Martial Dao Prime Body either. Instead, he closed his eyes and repeated it to strengthen his memories. However, not long after, the lines of the sutra he memorized vanished from his mind once more. This is. Suzimo looked at the palm-sized ancient white paper in his hands and his heart skipped a beat. He exerted strength in both hands and tore it to both sides. Indeed, the ancient white paper was intact. Taking a deep breath of air, Suzimo exerted strength. Apart from the fact that he did not use his blood chi, he released almost all the power of his grade 11 Green Lotus True Body. Even ordinary heaven-grade dharmic treasures would not be able to withstand such immense power. However, the ancient white paper did not budge at all and there were no signs of damage. This was a treasure. What was the origin of a sutra recorded in such a treasure? Why couldn't he memorize that sutra? Right then, something crossed Su Zimo's mind. He put down the ancient white paper in his hands first and chose to impart the contents of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra to the martial Tao Prime Body. The Prajna Nirvana Sutra was a taboo mystic classic, and its help to the martial Tao Prime Body was self-evident. Most of the first half of the sutra was sent to the martial Tao Prime Body smoothly. However, the Green Lotus True Body could not send the last half of the sutra. The situation encountered was extremely similar to his earlier experience. The sutra at the back was the sutra on the fourth tripod wall of the Hell Suppression tripod. The fourth tripod wall had just been repaired. Although Su Zimo had already memorized the sutras on it, he had yet to cultivate and comprehend them completely. In other words, if he did not comprehend the sutra of the taboo mystic classic completely, he would not be able to impart it to another person even if he memorized it perfectly. Furthermore, Su Zimo could clearly sense that although he had imparted most of the sutra of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra to the martial Tao Prime Body, there were still many important things missing. Those were the Tao runes and intents etched on the Hell Suppression tripod. Although the Green Lotus True Body could impart the sutra to the martial Tao Prime Body, he could not transmit the Tao runes and intents on the Hell Suppression tripod. That was something left behind by the Infinite Great Emperor. Those were the most precious legacies of the taboo mystic classic. At the same time, Su Zimo finally understood something. The stronger the cultivation technique, the harder it was to cultivate and pass it down. It was especially so for the taboo mystic classic. The only way to cultivate it successfully was by personally viewing the original copy of the taboo mystic classic. Furthermore, even if the first person cultivated it successfully, the taboo mystic classic could not be imparted if the original copy was not passed down to others. The heaven and earth slaying sword arts that Su Zimo obtained had such characteristics as well. Back in Tianhuang mainland, in the ancient era, someone obtained those two sword arts and cultivated them successfully. However, they were not passed down. Even the Sword Emperor only managed to inherit the full legacy after he created another sword cultivation technique through one of the sword arts. In that case, there was a high chance that the Sword Sutra on the incomplete white paper before him came from a taboo mystic classic or some extremely superior cultivation technique or secret skill. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and a thought flashed through his mind. He looked at the ancient white paper in his hands and circulated a cultivation technique at the same time as the martial Tao Prime Body who was far away in the fiend domain. In a drift, the two true bodies suddenly established a mysterious connection. Their minds were connected and they were even clearer and sharper than before. Suddenly, in the Earthgrade secret pavilion of Heaven and Earth Academy, Su Zimo's clear eyes transformed and two strange purple flames appeared. Spirit consonance art, to see what the other saw. At that moment, the martial Tao Prime Body transmigrated through endless space through the spirit consonance art and saw everything in the Earthgrade secret pavilion of Heaven and Earth Academy through the eyes of the Green Lotus True Body. Chapter 2270 Inner Sect Pulpit. 2270 Inner Sect Pulpit. Su Zimo's eyes burned with two purple flames that landed on the ancient white paper in his hands. Under the gaze of those purple eyes, the words on the ancient white paper seemed to burn. Even the Tao runes and intents on the ancient white paper were fused into the martial Tao furnace by the martial Tao Prime Body through the eyes of the Green Lotus True Body and comprehended continuously. It was impossible for him to cultivate this incomplete sword classic. As for the martial Tao Prime Body, he did not cultivate it either. He merely fused the Tao runes and intents of the incomplete cultivation technique as well as the endless secrets contained in the sutra into the martial Tao furnace and divined it. Another day passed before the martial Tao Prime Body fused the sutra, Tao runes, and intents of the incomplete sword classic into the martial Tao furnace. There were only a few hundred words in the sword classic. However, the martial Tao Prime Body spent an entire day. It was clear how precious this sword classic was. Unfortunately, there were too many parts missing from the sword classic and the remaining hundreds of words could not be connected. Even the martial Tao Prime Body could not figure out how to cultivate this incomplete sword classic. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief and rested for a while before continuing to browse through the remaining cultivation techniques and secret skills in the pavilion. This time round, through the spirit consonance art, it was equivalent to the martial Dao prime body reading the cultivation techniques in the secret pavilion. He fused the contents of the cultivation techniques into the martial Dao furnace and refined them at a much faster speed. Unknowingly, another day had passed. In that day, the martial Dao prime body refined 1,000 cultivation techniques in the secret pavilion. It would take less than a year for him to fuse all the cultivation techniques in this secret pavilion into the martial Dao furnace. Suddenly, a voice sounded in Su Zimo's ears. 3 days had passed and today was the day for Su Zimo, Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping to join the inner sect. Under Elder Zhong's lead, the three of them entered the inner courtyard. The so-called inner courtyard was actually a vast paradise. There was a clear barrier between the inner and outer courtyards. Upon entering the domain of the inner sect, one could clearly sense that the world had turned richer. The scenery in the inner courtyard was even more shocking than the outer courtyard. If the outer courtyard was already no longer like the mortal world, the inner courtyard was practically filled with paradise. The number of outer sect disciples of Heaven and Earth Academy ranged around tens of thousands. However, there were hundreds of thousands of inner sect disciples. That was because Earth Immortals who could join the Heaven and Earth Academy had to go through the Immortal sect selection. Almost all of them were paragons and monster incarnates of the Earth Essence realm and could break through to the Heaven Essence realm and become Heaven Immortals. However, the time taken for every outer sect disciple to break through to the Heaven Immortal realm was different. For example, Su Zimo, Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping had already broken through to the Heaven Immortal realm in just 1,000 years after joining Heaven and Earth Academy. That was a terrifying speed. As for inner sect disciples, they had to advance to the perfected one realm if they wanted to become legacy disciples. It was relatively easy for grade 9 Earth Immortals to break through to the Heaven Immortal realm. However, it was extremely difficult for Heaven Immortals to break through and become perfected Immortals. Therefore, in Heaven and Earth Academy, there were more inner sect disciples than outer sect disciples. This also meant that the competition between fellow sect mates was even more intense. Elder Zhong brought Su Zimo and the other two to the inner sect to meet the Grand Elder of the Academy. The Grand Elder of the Academy praised the three of them for their performance at the 10,000-year meet and gave them a sect badge each. That was the badge of an inner sect disciple, and one could only enter the inner sect freely if they carried it with them. Under normal circumstances, there were still some tests required to join the inner sect. However, Su Zimo and the other two became famous in the battle of the 10,000-year meet and brought honor to Heaven and Earth Academy. This time round, the Grand Elder made an exception and took the three of them into the inner sect directly to become official inner sect disciples. The process of entering the inner sect became extremely simple. There was no apprenticeship ceremony in between. Su Zimo was curious and could not help but ask, Elder Zhong, after joining Heaven and Earth Academy, nobody seemed to have to learn from any experts and everyone seems to be cultivating separately. Elder Zhong smiled. Cultivating in the outer and inner sects is entirely up to you guys. There won't be any special masters to impart skills and guide you guys. Of course, outer and inner sect disciples won't be able to come into contact with the true core Dharmic Tao of Heaven and Earth Academy either. Only legacy disciples have the chance to acknowledge a master and cultivate the top-tier Dharmic Tao of the Academy. Su Zimo nodded. Elder Zhong smiled. However, you guys don't have to be disappointed. It's not as though there's no one to guide you in your cultivation in the inner sect. Follow me, Elder Zhong said and headed towards the east of the inner sect. Su Zimo and the other two hurriedly flew through the air and followed. About 15 minutes later, Elder Zhong's speed gradually slowed down. Su Zimo looked over and saw a group of cultivators standing not far ahead with powerful auras. They were all Heaven Immortals and inner sect disciples. At a glance, they were dense and black. There were at least tens of thousands of them. Why are there so many inner sect disciples gathered here? Liu Ping was shocked and secretly speechless. In the middle of the black crowd, a blank area appeared with a gigantic circular pulpit erected in the middle. From afar, it looked like a round cushion. A figure sat on the round cushion with an extraordinary bearing. Every single move he made emitted a powerful aura and a rumbling might. The figure was saying something and everyone below was listening intently. The inner sect pulpit is right ahead. Elder Zhong pointed to the conspicuous gigantic round cushion in the distance. Every other year, a legacy disciple will come to the inner sect to impart his Tao and clarify doubts. This is the greatest opportunity for inner sect disciples. The legacy disciples have already come into contact and cultivated the top-tier cultivation techniques of Heaven and Earth Academy. Their cultivation realms have far surpassed Heaven Immortals as well. Often, a single sentence from a legacy disciple is equivalent to 10 years of bitter cultivation. It can enlighten one instantly. A look of yearning and admiration appeared in the eyes of Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping. Every legacy disciple was a perfected immortal. However, perfected immortals were way too far away from them. In the divine firmament immortal domain, there were many heaven immortal experts in the 4 immortal sects and 3 immortal kingdoms. However, there were very few who could become perfected immortals in the end. Perfected immortal experts had a lifespan of 500,000 years. After so many years of accumulation, Heaven and Earth Academy only had a few hundred legacy disciples. It could be said that every legacy disciple was a pillar and core power of the 4 immortal sects and 3 immortal kingdoms. In divine firmament mainland and even the entire heavenly world, one would be respected. You guys sure are lucky to be able to encounter a legacy disciple imparting the Tao within the year of your arrival. The person on the pulpit ahead is Senior Brother Jade Toad. Elder Zhong focused his gaze and said with a delighted expression, "Let's go, I'll bring you guys over. We can make use of the opportunity to learn from Senior Brother Jade Toad." Chapter 2271, 2271 Noisy. 2271 Noisy. Just as he was about to approach the cultivation ground at the front, Elder Zhong suddenly paused and descended slowly from midair, waving for Su Zimo and the other 2 to descend as well. You can't stand in the air when you come to the cultivation ground to learn. Everyone has to stand on the ground as a form of respect for the perfected immortals who are imparting the Tao. Elder Zhong explained. The 4 of them did not move much. However, at the front of the cultivation ground, a grade 9 heaven immortal expert seemed to have sensed something and turned around slowly. When he saw Su Zimo and the others, his eyes turned cold. At the same time, Su Zimo frowned slightly. He sensed a wave of hostility from the crowd at the front of the cultivation ground that vanished instantly. At that moment, Su Zimo had already descended on the ground. There was a sea of people in front of him and the origin of the hostility could not be seen. At the front of the cultivation ground. Qingyun, what's wrong? Yang Binjiang, the number 1 fairy of the inner sect, sensed that the man beside her had a strange expression and asked softly out of curiosity. The man beside Yang Binjiang was the number 1 of the inner sect, Fang Qingyun. I saw someone I know. Fang Qingyun said indifferently with a calm expression. Who is it? At the side, Tang Peng asked. Su Zimo. Fang Qingyun replied. Him. Tang Peng's expression turned cold as hatred and killing intent flashed through his eyes. Before the 10,000-year meet, in order to please Sword Immortal Yu Hua, the 3 of them wanted to teach Yang Ruoxu a lesson because of Su Zimo. Furthermore, Su Zimo and Yang Ruoxu were both from the lower worlds and Yang Ruoxu took good care of him. Back then, Fang Qingyun and the other 2 suffered a loss as well. Not only did they fail to teach Yang Ruoxu a lesson, they even caused Pang Yu's death. Qingyun, I heard from others that Su Zimo also knows a divine power that can reduce one's lifespan. Do you think that in that battle back then? Yang Binjiang had a confused expression and hesitated. Fang Qingyun said, cultivators of the Pang clan sent me a message as well to ask about this matter. They have the same judgment. Back then, that lad was only a grade 8 Earth Immortal. Could he have killed Pang Yu, a grade 9 Heaven Immortal? Tang Peng frowned in disbelief. Fang Qingyun said, no matter what, that matter started because of Su Zimo and he has a good relationship with Yang Ruoxu. We have to teach him a lesson. Senior Brother Fang, what do you think we should do? Killing intent flashed through Tang Peng's eyes as he secretly made a beheading gesture and sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. Should I find an opportunity? Junior Brother Tang, don't be reckless. Yang Binjiang frowned. I heard that Su Zimo made a name for himself at the 10,000-year meet and brought glory to the academy. That's right. Just teach him a lesson. Fang Qingyun smiled gently. We just have to let him understand who calls the shots in the inner sect. If he's wise and stands on our side, we can give him a chance. He's the top of the earth ranking after all and can be considered a talent. It's a pity to cripple him directly. Do you have a way, Qingyun? Yang Binjing sent a voice transmission. Su Zimo's current identity is no longer the same as before. Previously, he was only an outer sect disciple. Now that he has joined the inner sect, although his cultivation realm is far inferior to ours, he's still the top of the earth ranking. There's no need for us to step in. Fang Qingyun smiled indifferently and looked at the high and mighty figure on the round pulpit not far away. Senior brother Jade Toad. Yang Binjing's eyes lit up. That's right. Senior brother Jade Toad is a legacy disciple. Given his status, even if Su Zimo is the top of the earth ranking, he's nothing in front of senior brother Jade Toad. However, how can we get senior brother Jade Toad to step in and teach Su Zimo a lesson? Tang Peng asked. Fang Qingyun said, senior brother Jade Toad is under senior brother Yu Hua in the legacy ground. Senior brother Yu Hua's dislike of Yang Ruoxu is well known in the entire academy. All I have to do is inform senior brother Jade Toad about the relationship between Su Zimo and Yang Ruoxu and what happened in the outer sect. Naturally, he will step in to teach Su Zimo a lesson. There are 5 aspects to flourishing one's spirit. Energy takes the lead while the heart is the reliance of energy. One can only glorify the spirit when one has morals, and the method of nourishing the spirit comes from unity of the Tao. Every single orifice is a gateway for qi and all is regulated by the heart. Life is bestowed by the heavens and the union of the 3 essences will revert one's core to nature. The removal of illusions creates the true essence. Perfected immortal experts are one with heaven. Although Su Zimo and the others were standing outside the crowd, they could still hear the voice of perfected immortal Jade Toad from the pulpit at the front of the cultivation ground. His voice was gentle and his pronunciation was precise. Every single word spoken by perfected immortal Jade Toad was profound and memorable. Su Zimo surveyed his surroundings, still thinking about the momentary hostility earlier on, and was a little distracted. Elder Zhong, the disciples of the academy here seem to have high cultivation realms. Su Zimo took a rough glance. Most of the heaven immortals around the cultivation ground were above grade 5. There were almost no grade 1 heaven immortals like Su Zimo, Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping. Of course. Elder Zhong smiled. When disciples of perfected immortals impart their Tao, they usually impart the Dharmic Tao between heaven immortals and perfected immortals. It's the most helpful for high-level heaven immortals to know how to break through and what they have comprehended during the breakthrough. Su Zimo nodded. Right then, for some reason, perfected immortal Jade Toad's voice paused for a moment. After a moment of silence on the pulpit, perfected immortal Jade Toad continued imparting the Tao as usual. That momentary pause did not cause much of a reaction. However, Su Zimo realized that after a momentary pause, perfected immortal Jade Toad's gaze had drifted in their direction. This was the first time Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping had entered the inner sect, and they were both excited to be able to catch a legacy disciple imparting the Tao. It's such a rare opportunity for legacy disciples to impart the Tao. There are hundreds of thousands of inner sect disciples. Why are only half of them here? Princess Scarlet Rainbow asked softly. Elder Zhong explained, some inner sect disciples might be out traveling to complete sect missions, while others who are in seclusion cultivation will naturally not come out of seclusion rashly. Of course, every legacy disciple has their own insights and the Tao they impart are all different. It's definitely beneficial for us to listen more. That's right, true. Liu Ping nodded hurriedly and said excitedly, the few sentences that senior brother Jade Toad said earlier on were truly extremely mysterious. I've been pondering over them repeatedly and I've gained new insights. How noisy. Right then, a shout sounded from the cultivation ground like thunder. Initially, the thunder rumbled above the cultivation ground. However, it descended in the ears of Su Zimo and the other 3 instantly and exploded. Elder Zhong's expression changed slightly. He was a grade 9 heaven immortal and could still withstand the impact of the voice. However, Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping were only grade 1 heaven immortals. Their bodies swayed slightly and their ears buzzed. In fact, blood even seeped out of their ears. That single voice had already injured the two of them. Su Zimo managed to defend against it with his grade 11 Green Lotus true body. However, he frowned in discomfort. Chapter 2272, 2272 Get Loss. 2272 Get Loss. Su Zimo narrowed his gaze and looked over. On the raised round pulpit in the middle far away, perfected Immortal Jade Toad had a furious expression and a burning gaze as he looked at the four of them with a dignified expression. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, countless gazes on the cultivation ground looked towards them. The gazes were mixed with anger, surprise, disdain, and excitement. Instantly, Su Zimo and the other three endured unimaginable pressure. The attention of tens of thousands of heaven immortals from the inner sect of Heaven and Earth Academy landed on the four of them at the same time. The pressure was imaginable. Even Elder Zhong felt uncomfortable and blushed in embarrassment. Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping had just joined the inner sect and were only grade 1 heaven immortals. They felt even more suffocated. Su Zimo was expressionless. He had experienced way more dangerous situations than this. Naturally, the pressure did not affect him much. Senior brother Jade Toad. Elder Zhong bowed hurriedly with an apologetic expression. The three of them are Su Zimo, Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping. They have done great merits for the Academy at this 10,000-year meet. The three of them have just joined the inner sect and don't know much about the rules. If they have offended you, senior brother Jade Toad, please calm down and forgive them. Elder Zhong recounted the background of Su Zimo and the other two while apologizing profusely. He was extremely considerate and polite. Oh! Perfected Immortal Jade Toad's expression was still cold as ice as he asked instead, so, those who achieve great merits for the Academy at the 10,000-year meet are allowed to disregard etiquette and rules? What? Elder Zhong was speechless. That was not what he meant at all. He did not expect perfected Immortal Jade Toad to hold on to this matter. I'm here to impart the Tao and I welcome all fellow juniors to listen in. However, the few of you are chattering incessantly below and making a ruckus. You're way too brazen and don't know how to control yourselves. Perfected Immortal Jade Toad's tone turned colder. You think you can be arrogant just because you've done great merits at the 10,000-year meet? This is the inner sect, not your outer sect. A grade 6 heaven immortal sneered. So, he's the top of the earth ranking. It's no wonder why he's so arrogant and conceited. Another voice sounded from the crowd. Su Zimo found it familiar. However, the crowd was noisy and he could not recall who it was right away. So what if he's at the top of the earth ranking? Even after joining the inner sect, he's only a grade 1 heaven immortal. In the inner sect, he's everyone's junior brother. That's right, even the top of the earth ranking has to bow obediently and address us as senior brothers when he sees us. A commotion broke out in the crowd. Given perfected Immortal Jade Toad's status in Heaven and Earth Academy, many inner sect disciples would naturally choose to stand on his side. Even if some heaven immortals felt that this matter was a little blown out of proportions, they chose to remain silent. Under the lead of Fang Qingyun and the others, many cultivators began to criticize Su Zimo loudly. Sorry. Liu Ping's face was flushed red and blood was still flowing from his ears. With a guilty expression, he bowed repeatedly and apologized, sweating profusely. Princess Scarlet Rainbow was also ashamed as she lowered her head, wishing that she could find a hole to hide in. It was still all right for Elder Zhong. After all, he had cultivated in the inner sect for many years and many inner sect disciples were familiar with him. As such, there were not many attacks. However, Su Zimo and the other two had only just joined the inner sect. Right now, they were almost universally condemned. Su Zimo frowned slightly in frustration. He felt that something was amiss. While the four of them conversed below, their voices were not loud and could not be considered as a clamor, nor was it to the extent of chattering endlessly. The cultivation ground was extremely spacious and could accommodate tens of thousands of people. They were at the back of the cultivation ground and nobody would notice the four of them unless they listened carefully. Furthermore, the four of them were not the only ones conversing in the cultivation ground. Many cultivators were discussing softly and exchanging their insights. Wasn't the reaction of senior brother Jade Toad a little overboard if he was enraged just because the few of them were conversing? However, Suzimo had just joined the inner sect and did not know anything about it. He did not know the rules of the cultivation ground either. There was no way he could stand out and fight against a legacy disciple of the academy and a perfected immortal just because of his intuition. Perfected immortal Jade Toad said slowly, "The cultivation ground does not welcome people like you who have no respect for the academy's seniors and those who are imparting the Tao." Pausing for a moment, he hollered coldly, "Get lost." When he heard that, Suzimo suddenly felt indignant. His expression turned cold and his aura changed drastically. Sensing the change in Suzimo, Elder Zhong was shocked and grabbed his arm hurriedly. In a flash, he blocked in front of Suzimo. "Zimo, don't be reckless." Elder Zhong hurriedly sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. In the Yangyang Palace, he had witnessed Suzimo's methods and temperament. Suzimo was truly decisive to kill, and in a fit of anger, he could spill blood everywhere. But now, he was facing perfected immortal Jade Toad, a legacy disciple of the academy. This was somebody he mustn't go against. "Forget it." Elder Zhong sent a voice transmission, "We were in the wrong first after all. Let's go." Although conversing in the cultivation ground was not a big deal, they were disadvantaged in terms of logic as well. If Suzimo were to have a direct conflict with a legacy disciple, it would be difficult for him to advance in the inner sect in the future. Actually, Elder Zhong knew very well that even if they left now, Suzimo and the other two would not have a good time in the inner sect from now on. The three of them had just joined the inner sect, but they were scolded by a legacy disciple in front of tens of thousands of inner sect disciples. It was a complete disgrace. No matter who came to impart the Tao in the future, as long as the three of them entered the cultivation ground, they would attract strange gazes and ridicule from others. Sigh. Elder Zhong sighed internally. He was puzzled as to why senior brother Jade Toad would suddenly fly into a rage and target Suzimo and the other two. It was almost as though he was making things difficult for them. It made no sense because perfected immortal Jade Toad did not know Suzimo and the other two at all. "Let's go. It's all my fault." Liu Ping tugged at the corner of Suzimo's clothes as well and said in self-blame, looking aggrieved and ashamed, "Get lost from the cultivation ground. Don't affect our learning. You're not welcome in the cultivation ground." A series of shouts sounded once more. Princess Scarlet Rainbow pursed her lips tightly and lowered her head in silence. She had never suffered such humiliation in the Yangyang Immortal Kingdom. However, this was Heaven and Earth Academy. She was a princess in the Yangyang Immortal Kingdom, but here, she was an ordinary inner sect disciple. She had to endure all the grievances no matter what they were. Suzimo remained silent and closed his eyes, calming himself down. His initially clenched fists gradually relaxed as well. He's a frog in the well from the lower worlds after all and doesn't know any etiquette. Perfected immortal Jade Toad sneered. Why? Why aren't you scramming yet, lowlife? Are you indignant? Under the persuasion of Elder Zhong and the others, Suzimo was initially about to leave. However, he suddenly stopped in his tracks when he heard that. Under normal circumstances, as a legacy disciple, it was impossible for perfected immortal Jade Toad to know him. From the reaction of perfected immortal Jade Toad, it was clear that he knew his identity and background. At the same time, Suzimo finally recalled who the first few mocking voices in the crowd were. Tang Peng. The reason for this matter gradually became clearer. If they were the ones who made the mistake first and were chased out of the cultivation ground, it would be understandable. However, if someone targeted him intentionally, Suzimo would definitely not tolerate it. Chapter 2273, 2273 Dao Heart Stairs. 2273 Dao Heart Stairs. Suzimo turned around slowly and looked in the direction of perfected immortal Jade Toad. A mocking look flashed through his eyes as he asked loudly, "I've just joined the inner sect and have never met you before, senior brother Jade Toad. How did you know that I'm from the lower worlds?" Although Suzimo had no intention of leaving, he was not reckless enough to confront or fight perfected Immortal Jade Toad directly. He was only a Grade 1 Heaven Immortal and could be killed by a single finger of a perfected Immortal. There were rules in Heaven and Earth Academy. Even perfected Immortal disciples could not attack their fellow sect mates casually after a casual conversation or verbal conflict at the cultivation ground. If Suzimo were to attack rashly and give perfected Immortal Jade Toad a chance to retaliate, he would truly have a death wish. Perfected Immortal Jade Toad knew that his statement earlier on revealed an opening, but he was not bothered. This was merely a Grade 1 Heaven Immortal who had just joined the inner sect. Even if he was the top of the Earth ranking, perfected Immortal Jade Toad did not take him seriously. "I'm asking you if you're indignant." Perfected Immortal Jade Toad did not reply to Suzimo's question at all. He merely glared at Suzimo with a burning gaze and asked word by word. Every single word caused the void to tremble and a might surged towards Suzimo like a tsunami. Everyone could tell that perfected Immortal Jade Toad was truly enraged by Suzimo's rebuttal. At that moment, Suzimo was not only enduring the pressure of the tens of thousands of Heaven Immortals on the cultivation ground, but also the wrath of perfected Immortal Jade Toad. "Zimo, let's just go," Elder Zhong whispered with a pale face. Although he was an inner sect elder, he had to bow down in front of legacy disciples and did not dare to go against them. "Yes, I'm indignant." Suzimo had a fearless expression as he met perfected Immortal Jade Toad's gaze and asked indifferently, "Senior brother Jade Toad, are you going to attack and suppress me?" Private fights were not allowed in Heaven and Earth Academy. No matter who it was, they would have to fight on the sword discourse arena. As a legacy disciple, if perfected Immortal Jade Toad were to attack Suzimo on the sword discourse arena, he would be the one embarrassed instead. It was like an adult taking the initiative to challenge a 3-year-old child. If he were to announce it smugly in public, it would only attract ridicule from others. Suzimo was certain that perfected Immortal Jade Toad could not afford to lose face like this. Indeed, perfected Immortal Jade Toad suddenly laughed and retracted his terrifying might. "My cultivation realm is far superior to yours. If I attack you, you'll be even more indignant and others will say that I'm bullying the weak. What I mentioned earlier on involved the Tao heart. The strength of one's Tao heart has nothing to do with their cultivation realm. Since you're indignant, follow me to the Tao heart stairs." "Tao heart stairs?" Suzimo frowned slightly. He had just joined the inner sect and had not heard of the Tao heart stairs. When Elder Zhong saw Suzimo's puzzled expression, he explained softly, "The Tao heart stairs is an extremely special cultivation ground in the academy and can only be used to cleanse one's Tao heart. There are a total of 9 steps to the Tao heart stairs. Every single stone step was left behind by the strongest person in the history of the academy with a strong Tao heart. The strong Tao hearts caused the world to tremble, resonating across the great Tao so that they could be formed with supreme wills." Suzimo asked, "Does that mean that the 9 stone steps are not corporeal?" "That's right," Elder Zhong said, "although they are incorporeal, every single step truly exists. Everyone who steps onto the Tao heart stairs has to endure the supreme will left behind by the owner of the stone step. If their Tao hearts can't withstand it, they will fall from above. One can only ascend to the second stone step after withstanding the impact of the first stone step's Tao heart. Every year, cultivators will head there to baptize and temper their Tao hearts, attempting to ascend higher stone steps." Suzimo understood. In other words, the stronger one's Tao heart was, the higher they would climb the Tao heart stairs. The strength of one's Tao heart had nothing to do with their cultivation realm. It depended on whether their Tao heart was resolute and how much temptation they could withstand. Birth, aging, illness and death, the 7 emotions and 6 desires, each of them was a form of tempering for one's Tao heart. No matter how high one's cultivation realm was, it was difficult for them to break free from those attachments. Suzimo asked again, "How many people in Heaven and Earth Academy can reach the 9th step?" "How many people?" Elder Zhong was shocked. "Ha ha ha ha. Indeed, those who ascended from the lower worlds know nothing. They're just frogs in a well. The ignorant are truly fearless." Many Heaven Immortals burst into laughter when they heard Suzimo's question. In the crowd, Yang Binjing could not help but laugh. Senior brother Qingyun, Su Zimo is bound to lose. He won't just merely lose. Fang Qingyun shook his head gently. If his Dao heart collapses and he can't cultivate in the future, that can console junior brother Pang Yu's spirit in heaven. How should we achieve that? Tang Peng asked. Fang Qingyun smiled indifferently. That will depend on senior brother Jade Toad's capabilities. Elder Zhong pulled up his sleeves and wiped his sweat. Every level of the Dao heart staircase is not an ordinary stone step. It's not that easy. From what I know, apart from the sect master, no one in the academy can ascend to the 9th step. It's already not bad if you can reach the 2nd step, let alone the 9th. Most disciples of the academy, legacy disciples included, have difficulty surpassing the 3rd step. At that point, Su Zimo understood why the surrounding heaven immortals laughed. Perfected Immortal Jade Toad's suggestion was rather fair. However, since he dared to make this suggestion, he definitely had immense confidence in himself. However, Su Zimo had never ascended the Dao heart stairs before and had no experience. Naturally, he could not compare to perfected Immortal Jade Toad in this aspect. Su Zimo, do you dare? A mocking look appeared on perfected Immortal Jade Toad's face. If you don't dare, apologize to me respectfully here and get lost. Don't let me see you again. Cut the crap. Lead the way. Su Zimo replied indifferently. Elder Zhong was about to stop him when it was too late. He sighed internally and pondered for a moment before sending a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. Su Zimo, that's good as well. There's no harm in you agreeing to it. However, don't force yourself on the Dao heart stairs. If you can't hold on, retreat immediately and you won't be injured. Su Zimo, you're way too sharp. Elder Zhong lamented, if you want to survive in the upper world, there are times when you have to endure. Just like earlier on, we were scolded and embarrassed. It's nothing much and we didn't lose anything. We can just leave directly. There's no need to act rashly. Elder, you're right. Su Zimo did not refute and merely smiled. We merely seek different Daos. There were countless cultivators and all of them sought different Daos. Perhaps the Dao of some people was to restrain themselves and be careful. If they were told to scram, they would. If they were told to kneel, they would. There was nothing wrong or superior about the Dao that these people sought. However, those were not the Daos of Su Zimo or Desolate Marshal. The moment Su Zimo entered the cultivation world, he wanted to fight against the heavens, exact revenge and repay gratitude as he please. It was better to live a spectacular life than to live an ignoble existence. What was the point of seeking longevity if he merely wanted to lead an ignoble life? If not for his Dao heart and persistence, he would not have been able to reach this point. Without such a Dao heart, he would not have dared to accept the challenge and ascend the Dao heart stairs with perfected Immortal Jade Toad. Chapter 2274, 2274 You're not worthy. 2274 You're not worthy. A faint smile appeared on perfected Immortal Jade Toad's lips as he walked towards the Dao heart stairs. Dealing with a Grade 1 Heaven Immortal who had just joined the inner sect was nothing much for him. Although he was a legacy disciple, he was only ranked last among the hundreds of disciples in the legacy ground and was nothing much. However, it was different for Sword Immortal Yu Hua. In the legacy ground, Sword Immortal Yu Hua was one of the top 3 existences. If he could make use of this opportunity to get closer to Sword Immortal Yu Hua and obtain some guidance, it would be quite an opportunity. In Heaven and Earth Academy, be it the inner sect, outer sect, or legacy ground, groups of various sizes would naturally develop. If one was alone and did not have any backing, it would be difficult for them to establish themselves in the academy. Actually, Heaven and Earth Academy turned a blind eye to fights between disciples of factions. In fact, it was a form of silent acknowledgement. As long as they did not violate the sect rules and sparred, the benefits outweighed the disadvantages. The path of cultivation was filled with danger and bloodshed. If one did not have the experience of fighting and killing in the academy, they would not be able to adapt to the cruel world outside. Initially, perfected Immortal Jade Toad merely wanted to chase Su Zimo out and embarrass him. However, Su Zimo's rebuttal later on enraged him. A Grade 1 Heaven Immortal who had just joined the inner sect and had ascended from the lower worlds dared to go against him? So what if he was at the top of the Earth ranking? Perfected Immortal Jade Toad had already made up his mind and intended to make use of the Tao Heart Stairs to teach Suzimo an unforgettable lesson. The Tao Heart Stairs were not dangerous to begin with. However, if cultivators that ascended the Tao Heart Stairs could not withstand the impact of the Tao Hearts left behind by many experts before and insisted on not retreating, their Tao Hearts would collapse and they would enter Qi deviation. At best, it would be difficult for their cultivations to advance. At worst, their cultivations might even dissipate. Tens of thousands of Heaven Immortal experts walked in the direction of the Tao Heart Stairs in a grand manner, forming an extremely spectacular scene in the inner sect. What's going on? Some inner sect disciples who did not understand went forward to ask. Someone laughed. A Grade 1 Heaven Immortal who had just joined the inner sect created trouble at the cultivation ground and provoked Senior Brother Jade Toad. He even wants to compete against Senior Brother Jade Toad on the Tao Heart Stairs. Who is he? Is he crazy? He's just someone from the lower worlds who doesn't know any etiquette. No wonder. From the word of mouth of these disciples, they had long deviated from the truth. Or rather, the truth was not important to the bystanders, they only wanted to know one thing. A Grade 1 Heaven Immortal actually dared to challenge a legacy disciple. The crowd surged. Princess Scarlet Rainbow, who was initially lively and active, quietened down as well and looked at Suzimo with worried eyes. Liu Ping gripped his hands tightly with an uneasy expression. He looked at the strange gazes coming from time to time and felt uneasy when he heard the mocking laughter not far away. Suzimo followed the crowd with a calm expression. Before long, many cultivators crossed a lush forest and arrived at an empty field. Although the venue was rather spacious, it still seemed slightly crowded with tens of thousands of cultivators. After all, the Tao Heart Stairs was a place where one's Tao heart was baptized and refined. It was rare for so many inner sect disciples to appear at the same time. In the middle of the venue was a sacrificial platform. Looking down, one could see extremely mysterious runes etched on the sacrificial platform. They were dense and seemed to be some sort of array formation restriction. In the middle of the altar, a stone staircase rose from the ground with a total of 9 levels. Every single stone step was neither illusory nor corporeal. There was a strange glow circulating on them and they emitted a tremendous energy fluctuation. Standing in front of the sacrificial platform, everyone did not seem to be facing the Tao Heart Stairs. Instead, they were facing 9 eternal supreme experts that stood between the world and looked down at them. An invisible pressure enveloped the world. When Elder Zhong saw that Suzimo had made up his mind, he knew that he could not persuade Suzimo further and sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. Suzimo, there are a total of 9 levels to the Tao Heart Stairs. The first stone step was formed by the former immortal King Tianming of the Academy and it's known as the longevity step. Of the 9 stone steps, the first stone step is relatively easier because most cultivators seek the Tao of longevity. Once you step onto the longevity step, a resonance will be easily created if your Tao heart is similar. The second stone step is called the carefree step and was formed by immortal King Sui Xing of the Academy. What this immortal king seeks is freedom and being carefree so that he can do what he wants. The impact of the carefree step on a cultivator's Tao heart won't be too great. If you can't withstand it, you can just retreat. The third stone step is the killing step. At that point, a look of trepidation flashed through Elder Zhong's eyes. Suzimo, no matter what, don't step foot on this stone step. The killing step has the most impact on a cultivator's Tao heart. If their Tao heart is unstable, they will fall into the desire to kill and lose themselves, resulting in Qi deviation. In the academy, be it inner sect or legacy disciples, most cultivators won't be able to cross the killing step. I've never come into contact with the later steps. However, I heard that there's the nature step and the fearless step. Oh, right. Elder Zhong seemed to have thought of something. The 9th stone step was condensed by our sect master's Tao heart. However, no one from the academy has ever stepped foot on it. Suzimo, are you afraid? Right then, an ear-piercing and mocking voice sounded, causing many cultivators to burst into laughter. When perfected immortal Jade Toad saw that Su Zimo was silent, he thought that the latter was fearful and provoked him. Su Zimo, if you're afraid, I'll compete with you. Right then, another voice sounded. Su Zimo glanced sideways and saw many inner sect disciples surrounding Fang Qingyun, Yang Binjing, and Tang Peng. The person who spoke was Tang Peng. He was worried that Su Zimo would retreat at the last minute out of fear of the reputation of legacy disciples. That was the reason why he jumped out eagerly. Tang Peng smiled. Su Zimo, we're both inner sect disciples. If I ascend the Tao Heart stairs with you, it's not considered bullying. You. Su Zimo looked askance at Tang Peng before retracting his gaze and saying indifferently, you're not worthy. Tang Peng was stunned for a moment before he was enraged. Insolent. How arrogant. Before Tang Peng could speak, some inner sect disciples jumped out and shouted. Tang Peng's gaze was sharp like an eagle and shone with a cold glint. He glared at Su Zimo murderously and said coldly, all right, let's see how many levels you can clear on the Tao Heart stairs. Su Zimo could not be bothered with him and walked towards the Tao Heart stairs. Perfected immortal Jade Toad was already standing there. Zimo, watch out. Princess Scarlet Rainbow reminded softly with a worried expression. Liu Ping was tense as well, seemingly more nervous than if he was the one ascending the Tao Heart stairs personally. Elder Zhong sent another voice transmission. Su Zimo, you must remember not to force yourself. If you feel that something is amiss, retreat from above immediately. Su Zimo waved with his back facing the three of them and arrived at the sacrificial platform before long, standing shoulder to shoulder with perfected immortal Jade Toad. Right then, Tang Peng suddenly advanced and came to Su Zimo's left, sandwiching Su Zimo in the middle with perfected immortal Jade Toad. Chapter 2275, 2275 Tempering the Tao Heart. 2275 Tempering the Tao Heart. When Princess Scarlet Rainbow saw that, she asked softly worriedly, Elder Zhong, will the two of them attack Zimo when they ascend the Tao Heart stairs? No. Cultivators are not allowed to fight on the Tao Heart stairs. Elder Zhong shook his head gently. Pausing for a moment, his expression changed slightly as though he recalled something. What's going on? Princess Scarlet Rainbow asked hurriedly when she saw Elder Zhong's strange expression. Elder Zhong said, fighting is not allowed on the Tao Heart stairs but speaking is not forbidden. If Tang Peng or senior brother Jade Toad were to provoke Su Zimo with words while enduring the Tao Heart trial, there might be unpredictable consequences as well. Verbal attacks were often even more terrifying and dangerous. That was the reason why there were divine powers and secret skills such as serrated tongue spear and pen of mouth. Cultivators were extremely cautious in fights against top experts and most of the time, they would test one another with words to find openings. In the Tao Heart trial, if Su Zimo was affected by Tang Peng or perfected immortal Jade Toad's words and revealed an opening in his mind, there was a high chance that he would lose his Tao Heart and collapse. If Su Zimo had ascended the Tao Heart stairs before and had some experience, he might be able to deal with it. But now that Su Zimo was ascending the Tao Heart stairs for the first time to welcome the Tao Heart trial, the consequences would be unpredictable if anyone were to interrupt him with verbal attacks. At that thought, Elder Zhong was about to send a voice transmission reminder when Su Zimo and the other two suddenly moved. Almost at the same time, they ascended to the first step of the Tao Heart stairs. Mysterious lights rose from the sacrificial platform and formed a sealed barrier around it, isolating all sound from the outside world. I was a step too late. Elder Zhong sighed and could only pray internally, I hope that Su Zimo can tide through this calamity and the heavens will bless him. First stone step of the Tao Heart stairs. When Su Zimo stepped foot on the stone step, he suddenly felt a powerful will pushing forward bravely on the path of cultivation. Immortals caress my head and bind my hair to grant me immortality. The mortal world is filled with mutual deception, bloodshed, fights and karma. I only seek the Tao of longevity. Su Zimo seemed to have followed in the footsteps of his predecessors and traveled through the endless sands of time to temper his Tao Heart. The Tao of longevity was also what most cultivators sought. The path of cultivation was arduous and one could only reach the other end by upholding their Tao Heart and not being disturbed by external objects or mental demons. Once his Tao heart wavered, his conviction would collapse as well. At that time, mental demons would be born and his personality would change drastically. His cultivation might dissipate within a short period of time. Su Zimo stood on the first stone step of the Tao heart stairs and endured the will of longevity to temper his Tao heart and make it purer and firmer. The power on the Tao heart staircase was not targeted at the body or essence spirit, but the Tao heart. Only if one's Tao heart was strong enough could they not be disturbed by the will of longevity. For example, a cultivator might seek the Tao of the sword. The Tao of the sword advocated for one to advance courageously, they would rather break than bend. However, under the impact of the longevity will, if one's Tao heart was not firm enough, they would be confused and even doubt themselves. Why should they break rather than bend? Why would they want to commit to a point where they would perish with the other party? Only by living could there be hope and longevity. Once such a doubt was formed, one's Tao heart would waver. Perfected Immortal Jade Toad and Tang Peng had ascended the Tao heart stairs countless times and were most familiar with the will of longevity on the first stone step. It was relatively easier for the two of them to deal with it. Su Zimo, what is the Tao you seek? A cold glint flashed through Tang Peng's eyes as he suddenly asked. His body trembled and his pupils dilated, as though he was extremely shocked. Chapter 2276, 2276 Heart of the Martial Tao. 2276 Heart of the Martial Tao. On the second stone step, the Tao heart will of another immortal king was condensed. Initially, Tang Peng's Tao heart was only at the second stone step as well. Now that he had ascended the second stone step, he did not stabilize his mind and defend his Tao heart. Instead, he wanted to mock Su Zimo, and his Tao heart revealed an opening that was instantly broken by the powerful will of the stone step. This was the carefree step and the impact on a cultivator's Tao heart was not strong. Even so, a crack appeared in Tang Peng's Tao heart. He would have to recuperate in seclusion for a period of time after returning before he could recover. Tang Peng has lost a lot of face this time round. He took the initiative to provoke them but ended up losing. He must have been too careless. Su Zimo does have some tricks up his sleeves. He's able to ascend to the second stone step successfully just by ascending the Tao heart stairs for the first time. The surrounding inner sect disciples whispered. When Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping saw that Su Zimo was fine, their expressions softened as well. Fang Qingyun raised his head slightly. Two inner sect disciples behind him understood and hurried forward to help Tang Peng down. Even though he had already left the Tao heart stairs, Tang Peng did not seem to have snapped out of his stupor. His body trembled continuously and his gaze was hollow, as though he did not recognize anyone. The Tao heart will of the second stone step had a huge impact on him. Even though he had already fallen off the Tao heart stairs after he failed to guard his Tao heart, he could not break free from it mentally yet. Fang Qingyun closed two fingers and a spot of spirit light condensed on his fingertip, tapping Tang Peng's glabella gently. Tang Peng's expression froze and he fainted. Fang Qingyun said indifferently, "Let him sleep. He'll regain consciousness after waking up." On the Tao heart stairs, Su Zimo and perfected Immortal Jade Toad stood side by side once more. "Not bad." Perfected Immortal Jade Toad chuckled and said leisurely, "To think that you would be able to clear the first stone step's Tao heart trial so quickly." On the second stone step, perfected Immortal Jade Toad had a relaxed expression. While enduring the Tao heart trial, he could also divert his attention to speak. Su Zimo remained silent. "Actually, there's nothing much to the carefree step. The third stone step will be considered the true Tao heart trial." Perfected Immortal Jade Toad continued. Su Zimo remained silent. The reason why perfected Immortal Jade Toad spoke was because he wanted Su Zimo to reply. Once he replied, he would definitely be distracted no matter what he replied. However, Su Zimo did not fall for it and perfected Immortal Jade Toad did not probe further. He remained silent and focused on resisting the Tao heart trial on the second stone step. Good, evil, benevolence, heretical? I don't care at all. As long as I'm carefree, be it heaven and earth, rules, the 7 emotions or the 6 desires, nothing can restrain me. Under the influence of this Tao heart, Su Zimo seemed to have returned to Tianhuang mainland, to the time when he had just stepped onto the path of cultivation and only sought to be carefree. By maintaining a carefree Tao heart, he could live freely without restraints. He had no burdens and could do as he pleased. Su Zimo was gradually lost in this state and could not extricate himself. However, when he saw countless citizens of Yang country destroyed and homeless and Su Hong die with his own eyes, a strong emotion still burst forth from his heart. It was as though something had broken through the fog and broken free from all the shackles of being carefree from his body. I want to establish a Tao. Standing on the second stone step, Su Zimo suddenly spoke. His voice was so soft that almost no one could hear him. However, those words exploded in his mind like thunder. Those were the words that he said personally back then. From then on, he embarked on an extremely difficult Tao with an uncertain future. There was no one who could help him or give him experience on this Tao, he could only advance alone. When Su Zimo woke up, the Tao of carefreeness could no longer affect his Tao heart. That was the heart of the martial Tao. It was to advance courageously without any fear. Right then, perfected Immortal Jade Toad stepped onto the third stone step and turned to look at Su Zimo with a faint smile. I'll wait for you at the front. Before his sentence was finished, Su Zimo had already stepped onto the third stone step. A commotion broke out in the surrounding crowd. More than half of the tens of thousands of inner sect disciples present could not reach the third stone step. But now, this grade 1 heaven immortal who had just joined the inner sect had already surpassed most of them. This is bad. However, Elder Zhong had a grim expression and said worriedly, the third stone step is the killing step and is the most dangerous. Once one's Tao heart is lost, there's a high chance that they will enter chi deviation and their cultivation will be destroyed. When perfected Immortal Jade Toad saw Su Zimo following closely behind and ascending the third stone step as well, the smile on his face disappeared and his expression gradually darkened. This time round, he did not say anything more to provoke Su Zimo. That was because on the third stone step, even he had to focus his attention and manage his chi to defend against the impact of the killing Tao heart. Although he could ascend the third stone step, he had never crossed it. Kill. 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 The Tao of killing lies in one's heart. Any attachments, obstacles, obstructions, and karma only have the word, kill. The only way to destroy everything and all living beings is to kill and carve out a blooded great Tao so that there will be no more obstacles ahead. The moment he stepped onto the third stone step, Su Zimo felt a chilling killing intent that was so thick that it almost materialized and descended. In the Tao of killing, no matter what one did, right or wrong, there was only a single word, kill. Killing intent enveloped him and attacked his heart. If one's Tao heart was not strong, resolute, or pure, there was a high chance that they would sink completely into the killing intent and lose their rationality, resulting in chi deviation. Su Zimo defended his Tao heart and endured the killing intent on the third stone step continuously. The will to kill was far more terrifying and dangerous than the longevity and carefree wills from before, and the impact was even stronger. However, no matter how strong this killing intent was, it could not shake Su Zimo's heart of the martial Tao. The two true bodies were telepathic. The Green Lotus True Body's Tao heart was not the only one on trial on the Tao heart staircase, it was also the Tao heart of the martial Tao prime body. Although the Green Lotus True Body was the one stepping on the Tao heart stairs physically, the martial Tao prime body that was in the fiend domain was also enduring the tempering and baptism of his Tao heart. No matter how strong the killing intent was, it could not defeat the boldness of the heart of the martial Tao. I want to establish a Tao. I want to break free the shackles of fate that bind every single living being in the world. I'm going to change the fate of all living beings. I'm going to allow all lives in this world the ability to cultivate and become immortals. The Tao of killing could destroy everything, but it could not destroy Su Zimo's heart of the martial Tao that was the great Tao of true martial art. Bang! Su Zimo let out a long howl and his gaze was like lightning. He advanced against the tide and suddenly strode onto the fourth stone step. The cultivators were shocked and in an uproar. Perfected Immortal Jade Toad on the third stone step was still trying his best to defend against the impact of the killing intent and was even struggling. Su Zimo's actions caused his Tao heart to waver. He was invaded by the killing intent and almost lost it. This is bad. Perfected Immortal Jade Toad was alarmed and focused hurriedly, wanting to stabilize his Tao heart and persevere a little more. Right then, Suzimo glanced sideways and said indifferently, "Senior brother Jade Toad, I'll wait for you at the front." Those words were initially used by Perfected Immortal Jade Toad to agitate Suzimo. Now, it was the final straw that crushed his Tao heart. "You." Perfected Immortal Jade Toad was enraged and killing intent surged. The moment that killing intent appeared, it was unstoppable and burst forth like a ferocious beast. Chapter 2277, 2277 Ruined Tao. 2277 Ruined Tao. Killing intent surged into the spirit platform in his consciousness, and even the essence spirit of Perfected Immortal Jade Toad was stained with blood. This is bad. Perfected Immortal Jade Toad was alarmed and realized that something was amiss. He composed himself hurriedly and held his breath, wanting to disperse the killing intent in his heart. However, the killing intent on the third stone step was extremely ferocious and swarmed in the moment it found an opening. Given Perfected Immortal Jade Toad's capabilities, he could not defend against the killing intent of the third stone step to begin with. Right now, his Tao heart wavered, and in the blink of an eye, his consciousness was occupied by killing. His eyes were bloodshot and his face turned incomparably menacing. Kill. 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 Perfected Immortal Jade Toad waved his arms repeatedly with a tragic expression as he howled at the top of his lungs in all directions, completely deranged. Everyone could tell that Perfected Immortal Jade Toad's Tao heart was corroded by the killing intent, and he was in a chi deviation state that he could not extricate himself from. This is bad. Fang Qingyun frowned slightly and murmured. The tens of thousands of inner sect disciples were horrified as well. Under normal circumstances, when cultivators were ascending the Tao heart stairs, the moment they saw that the situation was bad and they could not withstand the impact of the will of the stone step, they would hurry down and escape unscathed. However, the situation for Perfected Immortal Jade Toad was different this time round. That was because Suzimo had surpassed him and ascended the fourth stone step, causing his Tao heart to waver and reveal an opening. Right then, he was enraged and his killing intent rose. That trace of killing intent resonated with the killing intent on the third stone step and instantly occupied Perfected Immortal Jade Toad's entire consciousness. It was already too late for him to break free. There were many inner sect disciples outside the sacrificial platform, but at that moment, they could not step forward to save him. The barrier formed by the countless runes outside the sacrificial platform could not only isolate sound, but also everything else. The power of heaven immortal experts could not penetrate it at all. Senior brother Qingyun, what should we do? Yang Binjing was a little worried when she saw that. Someone will come. Fang Qingyun had a calm expression and was in no hurry. Perfected Immortal Jade Toad was a legacy disciple and there were many experts in the academy. If anyone sensed the commotion here, they would definitely not stand by idly. No matter how strong or weak a Perfected Immortal was, they were a power that could not be ignored in any sect or faction. Right then, a figure crossed many cultivators and penetrated the barrier outside the sacrificial platform instantly. Arriving before the Tao heart stairs, he waved his robes and they extended dozens of feet, sweeping Perfected Immortal Jade Toad down from the third stone step. Old Xian! Elder Zhong exclaimed softly. The person who stepped in was the old man that Suzimo saw outside the Earthgrade Secret Pavilion. This old man was rather mysterious in Heaven and Earth Academy and guarded the various secret pavilions of the sect. He would often rotate between the Earthgrade Secret Pavilion and Heavengrade Secret Pavilion. Nobody knew his cultivation realm or status in the academy. Everyone only knew that no one in Heaven and Earth Academy seemed to dare to provoke this old Xian. Now that old Xian could pass through the barrier of the sacrificial platform with ease, it meant that his cultivation realm had at least surpassed the Heaven Immortal realm. Although Perfected Immortal Jade Toad was saved by old Xian from the third stone step, he had yet to regain consciousness. With a menacing expression and bloodshot eyes, his face and neck were filled with blood as he howled and struggled continuously. However, Old Shen's robes seemed to contain endless power that enveloped perfected Immortal Jade Toad's body such that the latter could not move at all. After more than 10 breaths, perfected Immortal Jade Toad gradually calmed down. The blood vessels in his eyes and face faded gradually as he seemingly regained consciousness. Old Shen removed his robes. Perfected Immortal Jade Toad opened his mouth slightly, as though he wanted to say something. However, before he could say anything, he spat out a blood mist and fell to the ground, fainting. Old Shen glanced at perfected Immortal Jade Toad and shook his head gently. He had already stepped in very quickly, but he was still a step too late. Perfected Immortal Jade Toad's Dao heart was penetrated by the killing intent and completely collapsed. His hundreds of thousands of years of cultivation was destroyed overnight. In the consciousness of perfected Immortal Jade Toad, the Dao fruit was already filled with cracks. Even if he could awaken, he would not have much combat strength left. The only thing he retained might be his experience of cultivating to the perfected immortal realm. How is senior brother Jade Toad? Yang Binjing could not help but ask. Fang Qingyun's gaze was deep as he said coldly, he'll most likely be a cripple from now on. He should only be able to go to the servant courtyard for his remaining life. Pest. Many cultivators were speechless with shocked expressions. In everyone's hearts, a legacy disciple was an unreachable existence. To think that he would fall from his high pedestal and shatter into pieces right in front of them, ending up in such a tragic state. Instinctively, many cultivators turned their gazes towards the green-robed cultivator on the 4th stone step. The mockery and contempt in the eyes of many inner sect disciples had vanished. Although perfected Immortal Jade Toad's cultivation was destroyed because he ascended the Dao Heart Stairs, it was closely related to Su Zimo. This person crippled a legacy disciple the moment he joined the inner sect. How ruthless. He's the top of the earth ranking after all. What Dao heart did that lad condense to be so powerful that he can cross the 3rd stone step? The killing intent on the 3rd stone step was something that even most legacy disciples of the academy could not cross. But now, the killing step was left behind by a grade 1 heaven immortal who had just joined the inner sect and had never ascended the Dao Heart Stairs. Zimo 1. Princess Scarlet Rainbow finally revealed a smile and applauded. After Elder Zhong composed himself, he heaved a sigh of relief and shook his head. To think that Su Zimo would be able to cross the 3rd stone step after ascending the Dao Heart Stairs for the first time. The younger generation will definitely surpass us. I knew that senior brother Su would definitely win. Liu Ping chuckled as well. Kid, why are you calling him senior brother Su now? When she saw that Su Zimo was safe and sound and even surpassed perfected Immortal Jade Toad and Tang Peng, Princess Scarlet Rainbow relaxed and asked jokingly. Liu Ping said in all seriousness, although our cultivation realms are the same, I'm definitely inferior to senior brother Su in terms of combat strength. It's only logical for me to address him as senior brother. Furthermore, my life was given to me by senior brother Su. It won't be an exaggeration to call him my benefactor. Liu Ping pouted his lips. However, we're from the same sect after all. It's a little awkward to address him as benefactor. Su Zimo has already defeated Tang Peng and senior brother Jade Toad. Why is he still standing up there? Could he be thinking of crossing the 4th stone step? How ambitious. A commotion broke out in the crowd and Princess Scarlet Rainbow could not help but ask, Elder Zhong, what's the will on the 4th stone step? I heard that the 4th stone step is the nature step. Elder Zhong said, as for how it feels exactly, I've never experienced it before either. However, the difficulty of climbing the Dao Heart Stairs will increase. I heard that there's even a sword Dao step or something later on that's even more dangerous than the killing step. Chapter 2278, 2278 Continuous Climb. 2278 Continuous Climb. The outcome of the fight between perfected Immortal Jade Toad and Su Zimo was decided. However, the tens of thousands of inner sect disciples present had no intention of leaving. Everyone's gazes landed on the green-robed cultivator on the 4th stone step. They wanted to see how much longer this junior brother who had just joined the inner sect could last. After Old Shen saved perfected Immortal Jade Toad, he did not leave either. Instead, He stood on the sacrificial platform and watched Su Zimo quietly. His endowment is indeed extraordinary. To think that his Tao heart would be so strong as well. Old Xian murmured softly. Back outside the Earthgrade secret pavilion, the first time he saw Su Zimo, he could tell that the latter had outstanding talent and he had a high evaluation of the latter. However, he had not expected that Su Zimo would be able to reach the 4th stone step and last so long. Old Xian's evaluation of Su Zimo rose once more. After so many years, the academy has finally recruited a decent seedling. He nodded to himself with a hint of admiration in his eyes. Tao heart stairs, 4th stone step. Su Zimo did not move at all. He closed his eyes and experienced the will of nature on the 4th stone step. The Tao of nature, the union of heaven and man. All living beings in the world have their own way of survival and are nurtured together without harming one another. The Tao is parallel but not contradictory. When we cultivate, we should be peaceful and follow the heavenly Tao. As the saying goes, man relies on earth relies on heaven relies on the Tao and the Tao relies on nature. Unlike the ferocity and bloodthirst of the will of killing, the will of nature was like a gentle rain in early spring, infiltrating with the wind and nourishing everything silently, subtly affecting Su Zimo's Tao heart. The moment he broke free from the blood swamp of the killing intent, he was bathed in a warm and gentle spring rain, as though he had encountered dew after a long drought. In this drizzling rain, Su Zimo's essence, qi and spirit received immense comfort and consolation, causing him to fall into it uncontrollably and linger. This was even more difficult to defend against than the killing intent he experienced earlier on. Su Zimo paused on the 4th stone step for a longer time than the previous 3 stone steps combined. For a moment, the Tao heart of the green lotus true body almost sank. However, a blazing flame rose in the Tao heart of the martial Tao prime body. It was a flame of war. This was the fearless flame of war that fought against the heavens unyieldingly. At that moment, the martial Tao prime body was telepathic with green lotus true body and resisted the corrosion of the will of nature together. The flame of war incinerated the fine rain and dispersed the spring breeze. Peace and submission to the heavenly Tao? If he wanted to obey the heavenly Tao, Su Zimo would not have stepped onto the path of cultivation. He would have died a long time ago in that small town in that corner of Tianhuang mainland. Although the martial Tao was difficult, he was fearless. He was willing to advance alone on the arduous path of the martial Tao. On the 4th stone step, Su Zimo suddenly opened his eyes and took a step forward. Piak. Su Zimo's feet were already on the 5th stone step. Heavens, another stone step. Hurry and inform senior brother Lin that someone has ascended the 5th stone step. What a powerful Tao heart. How can a grade 1 heaven immortal who ascended from the lower worlds condense such a powerful Tao heart? A commotion broke out from the crowd. Old Xian nodded slightly with even more admiration in his eyes. 5th stone step, fearless step. Su Zimo stood on the 5th stone step for less than 10 breaths. Before everyone's discussions subsided, Su Zimo took another step forward and ascended the 6th stone step. Ah! Look! A series of exclamations sounded as many cultivators looked at the green-robed figure on the Tao heart stairs with dumbfounded expressions, as though they had seen a ghost. 6th stone step. Impossible. If I'm not wrong, he's only just ascended the 5th stone step. How did he ascend another stone step so quickly? Many cultivators looked on in disbelief. That's impossible. Finally, a cultivator could not hold it in any longer and sped towards the Tao heart stairs in a flash, muttering, "There must be a problem with the Tao heart stairs. I'll give it a shot too." After the cultivator stepped onto the 1st stone step, he stumbled down without even ascending the 2nd stone step. That scene dispelled the thoughts of the other eager cultivators. Old Xian had a calm expression. The Tao heart stairs had existed for countless years and every single stone step was condensed from the Tao heart wills of supreme experts. There was definitely no problem. However, even old Xian did not know how Su Zimo could cross the 5th stone step so quickly. The 5th stone step was the fearless step. The will of this step's Tao heart was extremely similar to the will of the martial Tao heart. Therefore, it was completely easy for Su Zimo to pass the Tao heart trial on the 5th stone step with the martial Tao heart. Senior brother Qingyun, Su Zimo is indeed very powerful. Yang Binjing could not help but exclaim when she saw that. Although she was ranked in the top 10 of the inner sect, even she had not broken through the 4th stone step. Fu. A hint of jealousy flashed through Fang Qingyun's eyes but disappeared quickly as he chuckled. Don't worry, he'll definitely stop at the 6th stone step. That's right. Yang Binjing nodded. The 6th stone step is the sword Dao step. The impact on one's Dao heart is even stronger than the killing step. This was where you stopped the previous time as well, senior brother Qingyun. Fang Qingyun said indifferently, during this period of time, my Dao heart is close to perfected. Once I cultivate for another 100 years, I'll definitely be able to cross the 6th stone step and reach the 7th. At that time. The moment he said that, the figure on the Dao heart stairs moved once more. It was yet another simple step forward. Bang! The 7th stone step. Fang Qingyun's expression froze and he could not continue. Yang Binjing's red lips were agape and her charming face was filled with shock and disbelief. The 7th stone step. Among all the disciples of Heaven and Earth Academy, including legacy disciples, there seemed to be less than 5 people who could step onto the 7th stone step. This Su Zimo who had just joined the inner sect had actually reached this stage. This time round, there was not much noise from the crowd. On the contrary, the surroundings of the sacrificial platform gradually calmed down and became so silent that a pin drop could be heard. Tens of thousands of cultivators gathered and everyone held their breaths in shock as they looked at the figure on the Dao heart stairs. Many cultivators forgot to breathe and speak. There was only a single thought in everyone's minds. How many steps could this person climb? Could Su Zimo be able to reach the 8th stone step of the Dao heart stairs? A question crossed Elder Zhong's mind. However, he shook his head furiously immediately after and muttered in a soft voice, impossible. What's impossible? Princess Scarlet Rainbow asked. Elder Zhong said, I heard that in the entire academy, only Sword Immortal Yuhua could ascend the 8th stone step of the Dao heart stairs. Su Zimo is only a grade 1 heaven immortal, he shouldn't be able. The moment he said that, a figure on the Dao heart stairs moved. Piak. Although the sound of his feet landing on the stone step was light, it rumbled like thunder in the ears of everyone. Su Zimo had ascended the 8th stone step. Chapter 2279, 2279 Ascension. 2279 Ascension. On the 8th stone step, a green-robed cultivator stood. His black hair danced and he exuded an indescribable aura. The tens of thousands of inner sect disciples of the academy looked at that figure with conflicted expressions. Some of them had yet to recover from their shock. Some of them revealed looks of admiration. Some of them lowered their heads slightly with ashamed expressions. Those who mocked and sneered at him earlier on felt their cheeks burn in shame at the thought of it. Although that figure was only at the 8th stone step of the Dao heart stairs, it was as though he had already reached the peak of the immortal Dao, leaving behind the rest of the world as he looked down on all living being. In reality, it was not everyone's imagination. None of the tens of thousands of inner sect disciples present had ascended the 8th stone step of the Dao heart stairs. Even if most legacy disciples appeared, they would have to bow down when they saw the figure on the 8th stone step. The strength of one's Dao heart had nothing to do with their cultivation realm. However, in the hearts of many cultivators, it was assumed that the higher their cultivation realms, the stronger their Dao hearts would be. But now, Su Zimo's appearance had broken the understanding of many cultivators. This was a grade 1 heaven immortal who had just entered the inner sect and ascended the Dao heart stairs for the first time. In everyone's opinion, as long as one was attached to any single Dao, it would be difficult for them to surpass the 3rd stone step of the Dao heart stairs, let alone advance further. Right now, all those different identities were condensed on a single person. That person was standing on the 8th stone step. Everyone still felt that everything was surreal. How was that possible? If they had not witnessed it personally, no one would believe it even if many people recounted it. Su Zimo, oh, Su Zimo. Elder Zhong shook his head and sighed, lamenting, I never expected that he would cause such a huge commotion the moment he joined the inner sect. He had just entered the inner sect and was already standing on the 8th stone step after ascending the Tao Heart stairs for the first time. This was equivalent to trampling all the inner sect disciples beneath his feet. The shock of Su Zimo ascending the 8th stone step had already surpassed the crippling of perfected immortal jade toad. Liu Ping was long used to Su Zimo's methods. In his opinion, even if Su Zimo could reach the 9th stone step, it was only right. As for Princess Scarlet Rainbow, apart from joy, she was also a little disappointed. Initially, she thought that she was already a rare genius. Although she could not compare to Su Zimo, she felt that she was similar and would definitely have a chance to catch up in the future. But now, she suddenly realized that the difference between them seemed to be increasing. Even though their cultivation realms were the same, it was as though she would never be able to catch up to that figure. Fang Qingyun was extremely scheming. Even though perfected immortal jade toad was crippled, he did not take it to heart and there were not many emotions in his eyes. However, at that moment, there was a hint of gloom in his eyes. He suddenly felt a tremendous threat. Initially, he did not take Su Zimo, who had just joined the inner sect and ascended from the lower worlds, seriously. To Fang Qingyun, given his capabilities, dealing with Su Zimo was as simple as crushing an ant. Furthermore, the difference in their cultivation realms was so great that Fang Qingyun had never regarded Su Zimo as an opponent. However, when Su Zimo stepped onto the 8th stone step and attracted the gazes of all the inner sect disciples, Fang Qingyun realized that his opponent in the inner sect had appeared. Although this opponent was still very weak right now, he would definitely become a strong foe one day. Right then, a woman's voice sounded from the side. Fang Qingyun glanced sideways and saw Yang Binjing staring fixedly at the figure on the 8th stone step. Her eyes were dazed as she murmured softly, "What has he experienced? How can he have such a powerful Tao heart?" Fang Qingyun was extremely familiar with that gaze. There was a hint of curiosity and admiration in that gaze. It was the same way Yang Binjing once looked at him. Fang Qingyun's expression darkened instantly with killing intent. Initially, he merely wanted to teach Su Zimo a lesson. However, at that moment, his killing intent was triggered. Yang Binjing was the #1 fairy of the inner sect and she was interested in him. That was a fact he had long known. However, he did not express anything explicitly. Yet, the fact that he did not express anything did not mean that others could lay their hands on Yang Binjing. Right then, on the sacrificial platform, old Xian, who guarded the secret pavilions, suddenly turned around and looked at Fang Qingyun expressionlessly. There was no emotion in that gaze. However, at that moment, Fang Qingyun broke out in cold sweat as though he was splashed with a basin of cold water from head to toe and his heart trembled. In that instant, old Xian's gaze seemed to have seen through him from head to toe. All his thoughts, secrets, and even the killing intent that rose in his heart earlier on could not be hidden from old Xian's eyes. Fang Qingyun lowered his head hurriedly and avoided old Xian's gaze. The gloominess on his face vanished as he composed himself and panted slightly. At that moment, he felt as though he had just walked through the gates of hell. "Senior brother Qingyun, what's wrong?" Yang Binjing noticed Fang Qingyun's abnormality and asked. "It's fine," Fang Qingyun said vaguely. Yang Binjing asked again, "Senior brother Qingyun, how long do you think Su Zimo can last on the 8th stone step?" "I'm not sure," Fang Qingyun replied distractedly in frustration. As though she did not notice Fang Qingyun's change, Yang Binjing continued, "Senior brother Qingyun, we were indeed the ones in the wrong for underestimating this junior brother previously just because of his background." Fang Qingyun harumphed coldly and did not reply. Yang Binjing seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, "Do you think junior brother Su can make it to the 9th stone step?" "Impossible." When he heard that, Fang Qingyun spoke instinctively and said resolutely, "The 9th stone step was condensed by the sect master of the academy. It's called the wisdom step. Even senior brother Yu Hua could not withstand it when he stood on the 9th stone step and fell from the Tao Heart stairs instantly. Who does Su Zimo think he is? How can he withstand the supreme wisdom of the sect master?" The moment he said that, the figure on the 8th stone step moved once more. Piak. Su Zimo strode towards the 9th stone step. Many cultivators held their breaths and glared at the figure on the Tao Heart stairs with widened eyes. not even daring to blink. They were afraid that they might miss the most critical moment in the blink of an eye. Suzimo seemed to have difficulty advancing from the 8th stone step to the 9th. His feet hovered above the 9th stone step for a long time. The tens of thousands of inner sect disciples felt their hearts skip a beat as well, seemingly at the top of their lungs. All of them looked nervous, as though they were the ones directly involved. 10 breaths. 20 breaths. 15 minutes passed. It was as though he could not take that step further. Just as everyone was about to relax, Suzimo's feet landed on the 9th stone step with a bang and he reached the top. Chapter 2280, 2289 Great Elders. 2289 Great Elders. Unlike Sword Immortal Yuhua, Suzimo did not fall the moment he reached the 9th stone step. Instead, he stood firmly on it, his body upright and unyielding. The 9th stone step. Ever since the Tao Heart Stairs existed, apart from the sect master, no one in Heaven and Earth Academy had been able to ascend to the 9th stone step. The 9th stone step was known as the Wisdom Step. The sect master of Heaven and Earth Academy studied celestial beings and could see through all living beings. He understood heavenly secrets and comprehended endless wisdom. This 9th stone step was condensed by the sect master. It was said that back then, after Sword Immortal Yuhua failed to reach the 9th step, he merely said, "The sect master's Tao heart is unreachable. He possesses supreme wisdom and is unfathomable." Ever since then, Sword Immortal Yuhua did not attempt to ascend to the 9th step. As for the other disciples of Heaven and Earth Academy, they did not even have the ability to touch the 9th step, let alone stand on it like Suzimo. Impossible. Instinctively, Fang Qingyun clenched his fists and growled deeply. However, he quickly realized that he had lost his composure and steadied himself. He hid the killing intent and hostility in his eyes and looked around. Thankfully, no one in the vicinity noticed him and even old Xian did not look at him again. Everyone's gazes were fixed on the figure on the 9th stone step. That was the true focus of everyone. Nobody spoke. In the huge venue, tens of thousands of inner sect disciples were gathered. Although it was a large crowd, it was silent. Everyone was waiting for an outcome. Could this Grade 1 Heaven Immortal who had ascended from the lower worlds and just joined the inner sect finally pass the Tao Heart trial of the 9th stone step? It hadn't been long since Tang Peng fainted and perfected Immortal Jade Toad was crippled. Any one of those matters was enough to cause quite a stir in the academy. But now, many cultivators had already forgotten about it and no one cared. More and more cultivators gathered around the Tao Heart Stairs. It was not only inner sect disciples. Some legacy disciples rushed over from the legacy ground as well. The entire Heaven and Earth Academy was alarmed. Swoosh. Right then, a strange fluctuation came from midair. Immediately after, an old man in white robes appeared in midair with a walking stick. Although his beard was white, he was hale and hearty and looked at the green-robed cultivator on the Tao Heart Stairs with a bright gaze. "Look, it's the Grand Elder." Even the Grand Elder was alarmed. A commotion broke out in the crowd. Old Xian raised his head slightly and glanced at the Grand Elder indifferently before retracting his gaze without saying anything. Suddenly, in another void, a figure appeared as well. The moment that figure appeared, a thick bloodthirsty aura spread out and it was as though a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood had appeared behind her. Although the old man looked much younger, his face was pale and his gaze was sinister, exuding a cold aura that no one could approach. After the old man appeared, many academy disciples present could not help but shudder. "It's Elder 2. I heard that Elder 2 is in charge of discipline and is the most cold-blooded and impartial. There was once a legacy disciple who broke the sect rules and was crippled by him." Silence. "Don't let Elder 2 notice you." The commotion in the crowd calmed down rapidly. Phew. In the void on the other side, a pitch-black hole was suddenly burned out by a fireball and an old man walked out, as though he was bathed in flames. Within the flames, countless divine weapons hovered. "It's Elder 8 of the Academy." Elder Zhong said softly, "Elder 8 is in charge of all the divine weapons and forging dharmic treasures in the Academy. Anyone who wishes to obtain the top dharmic treasures and divine weapons of the sect will have to obtain his permission." Senior brother Su is ascending the Tao Heart stairs for the first time and caused such a huge commotion. 3 elders have already appeared. Liu Ping was secretly speechless. It's an unprecedented achievement to reach the peak of the Tao Heart stairs. Elder Zhong lamented, it's only logical that these elders would appear to witness this. As the 3 of them spoke, another old man appeared in midair. This elder wore a green robe. After he appeared, the entire venue was filled with a faint medicinal fragrance that refreshed one's mind. This is Elder 7 of the Academy. When Elder Zhong saw the confusion on the faces of Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping, he said, Elder 7 is in charge of all the elixirs in the Academy. All the elixir refinement immortal masters in the Academy are managed by Elder 7. Before his sentence was finished, another old man appeared. This old man had a benevolent expression and looked extremely friendly. He had a smiling face and no beard, giving off a favorable impression right away. This is Elder 4. Elder Zhong bowed slightly in the direction of Elder 4. Elder 4 is mainly in charge of external affairs in the Academy as well as some dharmic arts trials. For example, Elder 4 was in charge of making arrangements to escort you guys to the 10,000-year meet. I'm under Elder 4's command. Just how many elders are there in the Academy? Princess Scarlet Rainbow could not help but ask. There are many elders in the Academy and their cultivation realms are different. However, there are only 9 with the highest status. Elder Zhong said, the 9 great elders each have their own duties and control everything in the Academy. The 9 of them are ranked right beneath the sect master. As Elder Zhong spoke, 2 more elders appeared. Elder 9 was in charge of talismans in the Academy. Elder 6 was a middle-aged beauty with an outstanding aura and a cold expression. She was in charge of all the structures in the Academy, including array formations. In the blink of an eye, 7 of the 9 great elders had already appeared. By the looks of it, there's a chance all of the 9 great elders might be gathered. Liu Ping whispered. Indeed, not long after, 2 more elders arrived together. Elder 3 was in charge of all the immortal mountains, spirit peaks, paradise and cultivation resources such as essence spirit stones, essence spirit liquid and so on in the Academy. He was also in charge of assigning sect missions. The appearance of Elder 5 caused quite a stir. It was as though a massive army was gathered behind him and he exuded a steely killing intent with a suffocating might. Elder 2 was in charge of discipline and the killing intent he exuded was sinister and cold. However, the killing intent of Elder 5 was brutally savage. The 9 great elders of Heaven and Earth Academy appeared and stood in midair, surrounding the Tao Heart stairs as they looked at Su Zimo. Many cultivators were nervous and excited. It was a rare occasion for the 9 great elders to be gathered. Most of the inner sect disciples present might not even have the chance to meet the 9 great elders of the Academy after cultivating for hundreds of thousands of years. But now, everyone had the opportunity to catch a glimpse of the 9 great elders thanks to a Grade 1 Heaven Immortal who had just joined the inner sect. The 9 great elders appearing at the same time is extraordinary. Could there be a deeper meaning? Elder Zhong pondered for a moment. As though he recalled something, his heart skipped a beat as he whispered, could it be? What? Liu Ping could not help but ask curiously. The 9 great elders might be thinking of taking in Su Zimo under their wings. Elder Zhong said sternly. Ah! Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping exclaimed softly. Elder Zhong had a stern expression. If he joins one of those elders, he'll become a legacy disciple of the Academy. Su Zimo is about to experience a meteoric rise to the top. Chapter 2281, 2281 Organizing the Heavenly Secrets. 2281 Organizing the Heavenly Secrets. A legacy disciple. Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping were shocked. They had just joined the inner sect and knew almost nothing about the legacy ground of the Academy. Elder Zhong explained, the 9 great elders are all immortal king experts. Typically, inner sect disciples only have a chance to join the 9 great elders and become legacy disciples after entering the perfected one realm. But now, Su Zimo's ascension of the Tao Heart Stairs caused the 9 great elders to appear at the same time. This is the first time in the history of Heaven and Earth Academy. Who knows, Perhaps the 9 great elders are indeed harboring thoughts of taking in a disciple in advance. Liu Ping smiled. I was not wrong to call him my senior brother. To think that senior brother Su would have such an opportunity. Princess Scarlet Rainbow lamented as well, if he can become a legacy disciple, it will indeed be a meteoric rise. The three of them were not discussing loudly. However, due to the silence around them, Fang Qingyun and the others who were not far away heard everything clearly. You must be dreaming. Fang Qingyun raised his brow and said, everyone knows that there's a prerequisite for becoming a legacy disciple. You have to advance to the perfected one realm and become a perfected immortal. I was just mentioning it casually. Elder Zhong was unwilling to argue with Fang Qingyun and replied with a smile. However, Fang Qingyun was unwilling to stop there. Elder Zhong, you've been in the inner sect for a while now and should know some things. Even in the legacy ground, not all legacy disciples have a chance to join the 9 great elders. That was indeed the truth. There were hundreds of legacy disciples in Heaven and Earth Academy and less than half of them could join the 9 great elders. Fang Qingyun shook his head gently and chuckled. Even if Su Zimo ascends the Dao Heart Stairs, his cultivation realm is too low. He's only a grade 1 heaven immortal. How is he qualified to join the 9 great elders? Right then, the oldest grand elder with a white beard in midair coughed gently and said slowly, Su Zimo's Dao heart is strong and is talented. However, his cultivation realm is too low. I'm afraid he's not suitable for the rest of you guys. Coincidentally, I'm still lacking a final disciple. You're wrong. Elder 3 said hurriedly, it's nothing much if his cultivation realm is low, that can be compensated. I have essence spirit stones and sufficient essence spirit liquid with me. If I nurture him with all my might, I'll be able to help him advance to the perfected one realm within 50,000 years. He was in charge of many cultivation resources of Heaven and Earth Academy and naturally had the confidence to say that. That's using your position for personal gain. Elder 2 said sinisterly, if you break the sect rules, I won't show any mercy. Pausing for a moment, he continued, I heard that this lad is decisive to kill and is cold-blooded and heartless. In my opinion, my legacy is the most suitable for him to inherit. It's not impossible for him to be in charge of discipline in the academy in the future as well. You guys. The Grand Elder raised his walking stick and knocked a few times heavily. He blew his beard and glared. I'm already in my twilight years and don't have much lifespan left. On account of this, don't fight with me, Grand Elder, that's 2 different things. Elder 6 smiled faintly. My disciples are all female cultivators and I happen to lack a male disciple. I think Su Zimo is not bad. Elder 6 had a voluptuous figure. Although she was middle-aged, her skin was still smooth and delicate. She had an outstanding aura and even a gentle smile carried a unique charm. I heard that he went on a massacre at the 10,000-year meet. Suddenly, Elder 5 spoke with a voice that was like metal clashing. This lad is so murderous and is most suitable to cultivate under my lead. All of you, don't fight with me. In midair, the 9 great elders started arguing, causing the tens of thousands of academy disciples below to be dumbfounded. In the hearts of many academy disciples, the 9 great elders were mysterious existences that were high and mighty in the academy. To think that they would be like ordinary people right now, arguing endlessly for the sake of a disciple of the academy, none of them were willing to give in easily. Fang Qingyun's smile froze on his face with an awkward expression. It was only at that moment that he realized that the impact of ascending the Dao Heart Stairs in Heaven and Earth Academy was much greater than he had imagined. Fang Qingyun lowered his head slightly to hide the gloominess in his eyes. If Su Zimo were to truly join the 9 great elders and become a legacy disciple, Su Zimo's status in the academy would be above him. Initially, even if he lost this time round, he had many methods to deal with Su Zimo. However, if Su Zimo was a legacy disciple, he would not dare to act rashly. On the Dao Heart Stairs, Su Zimo was undergoing the final Dao Heart trial and naturally could not sense everything that was happening outside. He did not know that the outside world had almost fallen apart because of his actions. The will contained in the wisdom step was naturally not as impactful on Su Zimo's Dao Heart as the killing step and sword Dao step. However, The wisdom and will left behind on this stone step was all-encompassing and vast. Astronomical and calendar reading, secret skills, astral absorption, weather comprehension, divination, feng shui, visualization, talisman deciphering, auspicious selection and lot picking. The wisdom and will of the stone step contained endless information and secrets that could see through the world and explore the vast universe in an unfathomable manner. Those things seemed to have transformed into countless strange foreign runes that contained mysterious heavenly secrets that surged into his consciousness continuously. The runes were dense and covered the skies endlessly. The heart of the martial Tao burned with raging flames and refined the strange runes that swarmed over from the will of wisdom continuously. The will of the wisdom step could not shake the heart of the martial Tao either. The flames of war in the martial Tao heart intensified and his fighting spirit intensated. However, the ninth stone step did not seem like it was merely a test of one's Tao heart. The countless strange runes were still attacking Su Zimo's mind. Su Zimo was in the vast dark starry skies and was surrounded by endless strange runes. He felt as though he was about to be drowned and his head was about to explode. Although he did not recognize those runes, each of them contained the supreme wisdom of the sect master. Given his current cultivation realm, his consciousness could not withstand these profound and endless runes. On the ninth stone step, Su Zimo's figure swayed slightly, as though he was about to fall from above. In his consciousness, the green lotus essence spirit waved the Trinity auspicious jade, wanting to defend against the endless strange runes around it. However, even the mighty power of the Trinity auspicious jade could not knock down the runes. Right then, the primordial unity horsetail whip in the green lotus essence spirit's other hand flew out of his palm and flicked gently in his consciousness a couple of times. Strangely enough, after the jade handle and white threads of the primordial unity horsetail whip swayed a few times in his consciousness, the runes that surged in suddenly quietened down in an orderly manner. The 3,000 threads sorted out the heavenly secret. Under the combing of the primordial unity horsetail whip, the runes gradually left Su Zimo's mind. Strange. Su Zimo could clearly sense that there seemed to be some power similar to the strange runes on the primordial unity horsetail whip, as though they originated from the same source. The primordial unity horsetail whip was triggered by the strange runes and its green jade handle shone, as though a seal had been removed. At the same time, a lineage memory surged into Su Zimo's mind. Immortal Sacred King. Chapter 2282, 2282 10th Stone Step. 2282 10th Stone Step. After the Green Lotus True Body advanced to grade 11, Su Zimo obtained this horsetail whip dharmic treasure. However, there were extremely few lineage memories of this dharmic treasure. He only knew that it was called the primordial unity horsetail whip and did not know anything else. Now that Su Zimo was on the 9th stone step, the strange runes seemed to have triggered some sort of seal on the primordial unity horsetail whip, causing a lineage memory to surge into his mind. The Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra. In that memory, there was a secret skill sutra that was divided into 2 sections with slightly more than 600 words. However, Su Zimo could not understand a single word of the contents of those 2 sections. That was because the contents were written by the strange runes he had seen previously. He did not know what each of the runes meant, let alone what use the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra had or what it had to do with the primordial unity horsetail whip. Su Zimo comprehended for a long time but could not come up with anything. Although the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra only had slightly more than 600 words, it was like a heavenly book to him. Su Zimo stood on the Tao Heart stairs and was surrounded by the wills of 9 supreme experts. However, the changes in his consciousness was not something that could be sensed by outsiders. Although the entire process sounded short, more than 2 hours had passed. Su Zimo stood on the 9th stone step for an entire 2 hours. However, the 9 great elders did not leave and waited at the side, looking extremely patient. Elder 8, if you can't wait, you can head back first. Elder 3 smiled. I reckon that he won't learn blacksmithing from you even after the trial is over. That's none of your business. Elder 8 had a fiery temper and shouted like a bell, I'll wait here. If this lad joins me, he'll definitely have enough divine weapons for everything. By the looks of it, This lad has even passed the wisdom step condensed by the sect master. The Grand Elder nodded slightly and stroked his beard with his large hands, looking increasingly satisfied. Reaching the peak of the Tao Heart Stairs versus clearing the trial of the 9th stone step, those were two completely different scenarios and outcomes. The fact that Su Zimo was able to ascend the Tao Heart Stairs proved that his Tao heart was strong. That was enough to have the 9 great elders fight to take him in as a disciple. However, it would be even rarer if he could pass the trial of the 9th stone step of the Tao Heart Stairs. This time round, the 9 great elders would definitely not give in. All of them were planning in secret as to how they should rope Su Zimo in after the latter's trial ended. Right then, Elder 4 frowned slightly and looked at old Xian beside the Tao Heart Stairs, exclaiming softly, "Why isn't that old man guarding the secret pavilions? Why is he here? I heard that Jade Toad challenged Su Zimo to a battle on the Tao Heart Stairs and was attacked by the killing intent of the 3rd stone step earlier on. Old Xian was the one who saved him." Elder 9 said, "Although his cultivation is destroyed, he survived." Elder 5 sneered, "With the loss of his cultivation, even if he survived, he's equivalent to a cripple and is no different from Ant." Elder 2's expression was dark the entire time as he said coldly, "Since he's already saved, what's that old man still doing here? Could he be thinking of taking in a disciple as well?" Elder 3 teased. "Foo-foo." Elder 7 chuckled. "What can he teach? Does he want Su Zimo to learn from him on how to guard the secret pavilions or the entrance of the sect? Should we chase him away?" Elder 8 frowned slightly. "He's standing so close to the Tao Heart Stairs. It's an eyesore. He might affect Su Zimo's trial." The Grand Elder said nothing the entire time as the other elders discussed old Xian. He merely had a faint smile on his face. It was only when the Grand Elder heard the others talk about chasing away old Xian that he said slowly, "Forget it, he's the de facto old man of the academy after all. He's been in the academy for even longer than the sect master. Just give him some face and ignore him." Old Xian was expressionless the entire time when he heard the discussions of the elders and did not look up. Tao Heart Stairs. Su Zimo's green robes fluttered loudly in the wind. He opened his eyes slowly and looked ahead with a calm expression. The wisdom step beneath his feet no longer had any effect on him. Although he passed the Tao Heart trial of the 9 stone steps, he did not leave immediately. After the trial of the 9 stone steps of the Tao Heart Stairs, the power of the Tao Hearts of his 2 true bodies was completely triggered and the flames of war were ignited, burning furiously. Su Zimo's Tao Hearts contained an unimaginable power that he had nowhere to vent. He looked at the void before him with a burning gaze. His eyes seemed to be burning with 2 balls of flames and his aura rose continuously. It's truly hard to imagine that someone could pass the trial of the 9 stone steps of the Tao Heart Stairs. Furthermore, he's only a grade 1 heaven immortal. There's a high chance Su Zimo is the first and last person to do it in the entire Heaven and Earth Academy. That's right, this is unprecedented and it'll be difficult for anyone to repeat this in the future. After the dust settled, discussions gradually broke out in the crowd. Many cultivators were filled with emotions. No one had expected that a grade 1 heaven immortal who had ascended from the lower worlds would create an unprecedented record in Heaven and Earth Academy. At that moment, many cultivators felt ashamed when they recalled their initial contempt and mockery of that person. Junior brother Su has already passed the trial of the Tao Heart Stairs. Why is he still standing on it? Someone asked. He probably wants to comprehend more, another person said. Let's disperse. There's nothing much to see. Let's wait a little more. There's still no conclusion as to whether Su Zimo can become a legacy disciple or join any of the 9 great elders. I'm not waiting lest I suffer another shock. Just tell me the outcome when you head back later. Many cultivators suffered a huge blow this time round and were prepared to return and cultivate in seclusion. Right then, the figure standing on the 9th stone step moved once more. It was still a familiar and simple action as he took another step into the void before him. There was nothing there and Su Zimo's action seemed a little strange. However, that single step caused the mountain range in the academy to tremble, startling countless birds and beasts. The ground shook and all beasts roared. The cultivators who were about to leave stopped and turned around. Immediately after, the eyes of many cultivators widened as they witnessed an incomparably shocking scene that they would never forget in their life. Beneath Susimo's feet, a vast wall gathered above the 9th stone step. Beams of light circulated and another stone step appeared, becoming clearer and more obvious. Instantly, the world shook and a phenomenon descended. Countless lotus flowers fell from the skies. Golden lotus flowers blossomed beneath Susimo's feet as well. Heavenly flower fall and earth gushing golden lotus. Those were initially two greater divine powers, but now, they descended in the form of universal phenomenons. Raging flames began to burn beneath Susimo's feet. The golden lotuses were being burned by the flames. Hoo-hoo! Dong! 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 Suddenly, everyone heard a strange sound that seemed to be able to touch their minds. Everyone's essence chi, true essence and essence spirit trembled uncontrollably. The dharmic conch and drum, old Xian exclaimed. Pest! The expressions of the 9 great elders changed at the same time. Legend has it that only by resonating with the great Tao would the sounds of the dharmic conch and drum be born. This was only mentioned in the oldest immortal classics and Buddhist sutras. The 9 great elders had cultivated for hundreds of thousands of years, but they had never heard such sound. The world shook and the great Tao resonated. Susimo took another step forward and condensed the 10th stone step. Chapter 2283, 2283 Sect Master of the Academy. 2283 Sect Master of the Academy. This time round, it was not only the many Academy disciples present, even the 9 great elders were shocked. The sounds of the dharmic conch and drum were no ordinary sounds. They were immortal sounds, Sanskrit and heavenly music. Immortal king experts like the 9 great elders felt incomparably tiny against those immortal sounds, let alone inner sect disciples and legacy disciples. Many disciples of the Academy were completely stunned. Shock, confusion, and disbelief. Everyone's eyes widened and there was only a single thought in their minds: how was that possible? Nobody present had witnessed the scene of the sect master condensing the 9th stone step. But now, they had the chance to witness the formation of the 10th stone step personally. Not only did Susimo pass the trial of the Tao Heart Stairs, he even created a 10th stone step. The 10th step came above the 9th. This was not a simple numerical advancement. More than that, it meant that Susimo's Tao heart seemed to have broken through some sort of limit and was even above the sect master of the Academy. Was that possible? Susimo was only a grade 1 heaven immortal. Although the strength of one's Tao heart had nothing to do with their cultivation realm, could a Tao heart condensed by a grade 1 heaven immortal be so strong? The condensation of each stone step on the Tao heart stairs was one harder than the other. In order to condense a stone step at the back, one would first have to endure the previous Tao heart trial that was a huge test for most cultivators. When this generation's sect master of the Academy condensed the 9th stone step, everyone thought that it was the limit and endpoint. 9 was an extreme number and it was impossible to break that limit. Who could withstand the trial of the 9 stone steps of the Tao heart stairs and advance beyond the sect master's wisdom step, creating a 10th stone step? This scene had a huge psychological and visual impact on everyone present. After passing the trial of the Tao Heart Stairs, Susimo was at best the number 1 in the history of Heaven and Earth Academy. He attracted the 9 great elders to gather and fight to take him in as a disciple. But now, the 10th step on the Tao Heart Stairs was formed. He could no longer be described as the number 1 in the history of the Academy. Such an achievement was unprecedented and was enough to be recorded in the books of the Academy and leave a mark in history. Heavens, what Tao heart did senior brother Su condense to be so strong? Liu Ping's tiny mouth was agape and he was in a daze, unable to recover from the scene before him. Elder Zhong gulped. Now that I think about it, it's no wonder why perfected immortal Jade Toad lost. What sort of existence did he provoke? He condensed the 10th stone step on the Tao Heart Stairs. If news of this spreads, it will probably cause a huge stir in the entire divine firmament immortal domain. Princess Scarlet Rainbow murmured softly, the impact of this matter will definitely be greater than the battle at the 10,000-year meet. Actually, Princess Scarlet Rainbow had still underestimated the significance of the 10th stone step of the Tao Heart Stairs. The fact that Su Zimo passed the 9 stone steps of the Tao Heart Stairs was enough to cause a huge stir in the divine firmament immortal domain. Now that he had condensed a 10th stone step above the sect master of the academy, news of this would shock the 9 firmament immortal domain and even the heavenly world. Right then, a figure suddenly appeared in midair. Nobody could see how that figure appeared. By the time everyone looked over, that person was already standing there. The person wore a green Confucian robe and was upright. Although he was merely standing in the air with his hands behind his back, he exuded a dignified aura. In front of this person, even the 9 great elders seemed to be inferior. "The sect master is here," Elder Zhong exclaimed. Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping looked over instinctively. Their gazes landed on the sect master's face and froze, unable to shift away. The sect master looked to be only middle-aged with a hint of grey at the temples. His face was handsome and flawless, much younger than the 9 great elders. His forehead was high and pronounced, seemingly filled with endless wisdom. The most striking thing was his eyes that were deep and mysterious like the resplendent stars in the night sky. They were also like gems in the depths of the sea that shone with a strange luster. With a single glance, one could not help but sink into them, as though they possessed endless demonic power. Those eyes were filled with deep melancholy as well as energetic vigor. There were vast starry skies, all objects in the world, the rumbling mortal world as well as living beings. Through those eyes, everyone seemed to see different worlds and contrasting scenes. The appearance of the sect master attracted everyone's attention. Sect master. The 9 great elders cupped their fists slightly. "Greetings, sect master." Many cultivators below bowed as well and called out in unison. On the sacrificial platform, Old Xian finally raised his head and looked at the sect master, nodding slightly. The commotion this time round was so great that even the sect master was alarmed. Now that the sect master has appeared, could he be thinking of taking in a disciple as well? It can't be, right? I heard that the sect master has extremely stringent requirements for taking in disciples. Right now, he only has 6 disciples and I heard that Fairy Mo Qing is one of them. The condensation of a 10th stone step is unprecedented and unlikely to be surpassed in the future. It's not impossible for the sect master to take a liking to him given his strong Tao heart. Many cultivators whispered among themselves. "Sect master, why are you?" Elder 3 probed. "A 10th stone step is condensed above my wisdom step. Naturally, I have to take a look at the one with such capabilities." The sect master looked at Su Zimo and praised, "You're so young and only a grade 1 heaven immortal. How rare." "Sect master, don't tell me you want to take him in as a disciple as well?" Elder 6 asked bluntly. "Why not?" The sect master looked at Elder 6 and asked with a smile. Meeting the eyes of the sect master, Elder 6 blushed slightly. She turned her head and waved it off, saying softly, "Forget it. Since you want to take him in as a disciple, I'll withdraw. This is an unpolished jade." The sect master said warmly, "I'll teach him personally." The moment he said that, it meant that there was almost no doubt that the sect master would take Su Zimo in as his disciple. If he could join the sect master, it would naturally be better than joining the 9 great elders. That was because there was probably no one in the academy who was more capable than the sect master. The requirement for the sect master to take in disciples was extremely stringent as well. Right now, there were only 6 disciples under him. Among them, Sword Immortal Yu Hua and Painting Immortal Mo Qing were famous in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain and even 9 Firmament Immortal Domain. If Su Zimo could join the sect master, he would be the junior brother of Painting Immortal Mo Qing as well as Sword Immortal Yu Hua and his status would be comparable to theirs. What sort of privilege would that be? Since the sect master is here, I have nothing to say. Elder 2 announced his withdrawal. The other elders did not insist either. The 9 great elders knew in their hearts that although they were all Immortal King experts, their methods and capabilities were far inferior to the sect master of the academy. "I don't agree." Right then, a voice sounded in the mind of the sect master. Apart from him, no one else noticed it. Chapter 2284, 2284 In-Name Disciple. 2284 In-Name Disciple. The sect master of the Academy's expression did not change when he heard that voice, as though he was not surprised. The sect master's gaze was still fixed on Su Zimo. He did not lower his head to look at old Xian and asked with a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness expressionlessly, "Why not? Even for the matter of taking in disciples, there has to be an order to things." Old Xian sent a voice transmission, "I took a liking to this lad first. You were a step too late. You want him to inherit your legacy?" The sect master asked again. "That's right." Old Xian said, "This lad's Dao heart is unprecedentedly strong. Only such a Dao heart can shoulder the responsibility of my lineage." The sect master said indifferently, "To be fair, given his endowment and talent, coupled with his resolute and powerful Dao heart, it's a waste for him to inherit your legacy." "Cut the crap." Old Xian was a little displeased. "Ever since Heaven and Earth Academy was established, my lineage has a huge responsibility and it concerns the future of the Academy. How is it a waste? Actually, in my opinion, there's no meaning to your lineage to begin with." The sect master replied, "Hundreds of thousands of years ago, I took over as the sect master and you inherited the position of Elder 10 of the Academy. However, after so many years, you have had nothing to do with the development of the Academy. To be precise, ever since Heaven and Earth Academy was established, the position of Elder 10 has never been of any use all these years." Old Xian was silent. He knew in his heart that due to his special identity, he could not interfere in the affairs of the Academy as Elder 10. In fact, even his identity was a top secret in Heaven and Earth Academy. After a moment of silence, Old Xian said, "No matter what, this was the rule set up by the previous sect master. You're the one in the open while I stay in the dark. How can we call it off so easily?" "That's right. Apart from the Grand Elder, even the other 8 elders don't know your true identity since you're in the dark." The sect master sighed and asked instead, "Do you want Su Zimo to accept your legacy and be like you, only able to hide everything and live in the dark from now on? He's still young. Isn't it way too cruel to hand such a heavy burden to him?" Old Xian fell silent once more with his head lowered. The sect master continued, "If he joins me, I'll guide and protect him. Given his talent and endowment, he'll definitely be able to become famous in the 9-firmament immortal domain in the future and lead a carefree life. What's bad about that? I can understand your love for talent. However, isn't it a little selfish for you to place all the burden on him for the sake of the legacy of your lineage?" After a long silence, Old Xian suddenly gave a strange laugh. "I'm not like you who have already taken in 6 disciples. My lineage will only have a single disciple. It's not easy for me to meet someone good, I won't let this go. However, I've already appeared here and said that I wanted to take him in as a disciple. How can I renege on my words in front of so many disciples?" The sect master smiled bitterly in exasperation. "I don't care." Old Xian rolled his eyes. When the sect master of the Academy saw that Old Xian refused to back down, he could not help but sigh gently. The melancholy in his eyes seemed to have intensified. "How about this? Let's both compromise." A moment later, the sect master said, "I've already said that I want to take him in as a disciple. Naturally, I can't go back on my words. I can accept him as an in-name disciple first. Once he enters the perfected one realm and becomes a perfected immortal, he can choose for himself to join me or to inherit your legacy. How about that?" "Yes, that's fairer." Old Xian's eyes darted around. This can be considered as respect for his wishes. No matter who he joins, it's his choice. Furthermore, he's only a heaven immortal and his cultivation realm is too low. It might not be a good thing for him to be pushed to the position of a legacy disciple right away. Pausing for a moment, Old Xian continued, "After you accept him as an in-name disciple, let him train and cultivate in the inner sect first. If he's thrown to the legacy ground right away and is surrounded by perfected immortal experts, his days won't be easy. Right then, the 10th stone step beneath Su Zimo's feet was fully condensed. Su Zimo stood on the 10th stone step and closed his eyes for a long time, reminiscing about the tempering of the 9 Dao heart wills. The Tao hearts of his two true bodies became increasingly perfect and indestructible. The flames of war on the Tao hearts of the two true bodies were extinguished after the 10th stone step was formed. The 10th stone step was named the martial Tao step. Su Zimo left the willpower of his two true bodies on it. Anyone who stepped onto the 10th stone step would have to endure the impact of the martial Tao will. That was an unimaginable power that burned like fire and could incinerate all living beings. Those with weak Tao hearts would even incinerate their Tao heart upon reaching the 10th stone step. A long time later, Su Zimo opened his eyes slowly. The surroundings were strangely silent. Sensing something, Su Zimo looked up instinctively and saw 9 old men surrounding the Tao heart stairs, watching him. There was a myriad of gazes, cold, benevolent, friendly, admiration. Su Zimo's gaze swept past the 9 old men rapidly and landed on another Confucian-robed man. Their gazes met gently in midair. A bang sounded in Su Zimo's mind as he recalled the countless strange runes that appeared on the wisdom step. In the eyes of the Confucian-robed man, Su Zimo seemed to be able to see the endless starry skies, the dark and boundless deep sea, countless astronomical calendars and secret skills. It was as though all the secrets in the world could not be hidden from those eyes. "You're impressive." The Confucian-robed man spoke in a deep and magnetic voice. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he woke up. He exchanged glances with the Confucian-robed man and realized that the person before him was the sect master of Heaven and Earth Academy who had condensed the 9th stone step of the Tao heart stairs. "Greetings, sect master." Su Zimo bowed. Even he did not realize that the sect master of the academy was alarmed when he condensed the 10th stone step of the Tao heart stairs. "You might have to change the way you address me from now on." The sect master smiled gently. "Huh." Su Zimo was slightly stunned. Previously, he was immersed in condensing the 10th stone step and did not know what was happening outside. The sect master surveyed his surroundings. "When you ascended to the 9th step of the Tao heart stairs, the 9 great elders of the academy appeared at the same time and wanted to take you in as their disciples. When you condensed the 10th stone step later on, even I was tempted." At that point, the sect master smiled. "However, your cultivation realm is insufficient. If I take you in as a legacy disciple directly, wouldn't it be unfair to the other legacy disciples? I'll take you in as an in-name disciple first. If there's a day when you can advance to the perfected one realm and become a perfected immortal, it won't be too late for you to join me." Pausing for a moment, the sect master swept his gaze across old Xian on the sacrificial platform inadvertently and continued, "Of course, when you become a perfected immortal, it's up to you if you want to join the other elders as well." Chapter 2285, 2285 Teleportation Jade Badge. 2285 Teleportation Jade Badge. When the elders heard that, they were puzzled. According to the initial intention of the sect master, he wanted to take Su Zimo in as his personal disciple directly. Why did the latter become an in-name disciple at the last minute? Naturally, the elders did not know what happened during this period of time that caused the sect master to change his mind. The Grand Elder's expression changed as he glanced at old Xian on the sacrificial platform in deep thought. Su Zimo. The sect master had a warm expression as he looked at Su Zimo and asked with a smile, "Are you willing to join me as an in-name disciple?" "I'm willing." Su Zimo bowed and replied in a deep voice. Although he was only joining the sect master as an in-name disciple, there were no disadvantages for him. He had no reason to reject this. Many cultivators present revealed deep envy in their eyes. Even though he was only an in-name disciple, his status far surpassed ordinary inner sect disciples. This was the in-name disciple of the sect master of the academy. If nothing went wrong, he would definitely join the sect master as a personal disciple in the future. At that moment, Tang Peng had already woken up and could not accept the scene before him. He had merely fallen from the Tao heart stairs and fainted. However, he would have never expected that the moment he woke up, the Heaven Immortal who had just entered the inner sect would soar with a meteoric rise and was even above him in terms of status now. The flow of fate seemed mysterious and cruel at this moment. "Senior brother Fang, what happened?" Tang Peng was still in disbelief as he clenched his fists and grit his teeth. How did that person jump over our heads? Don't fluster, don't panic. Fang Qingyun had a calm expression as he sent a voice transmission. Su Zimo is only an in-name disciple and not a true legacy disciple. We still have a chance. Right then, the sect master retracted his smile and surveyed his surroundings. Every disciple had a feeling that he was being watched. Everyone from Heaven and Earth Academy, listen up. The sect master said slowly, today's matter of the Tao Heart Stairs and Su Zimo's identity as my in-name disciple is not to be spread without my permission. Anyone who reveals it intentionally will be charged with the same crime of harming their fellow sect mates and will be killed without mercy. After the sect master appeared, he was polite throughout and even smiled from time to time, giving off an intimate feeling. But now, when the sect master said those words, he exuded the might and killing intent of a superior. Not to mention the disciples present, even the 9 great elders shuddered. Fang Qingyun's expression froze and his expression turned terrible. Initially, he was still contemplating how he should turn the tides and plot against Su Zimo. But now that the sect master said that, he was so scared that his heart skipped a beat and many of his previous thoughts vanished instantly. In fact, Fang Qingyun even had the illusion that the sect master had read his mind and that those words were a warning. What's the rationale of the sect master? Liu Ping could not help but ask. If word of what happened today is spread, it will definitely cause a huge stir in the divine firmament Immortal domain. Elder Zhong explained, at that time, countless gazes and attention will be focused on Su Zimo. That is equivalent to pushing Su Zimo to the center of attention. Who knows how much danger and hostility he'll endure in that position. By not allowing anyone from the academy to spread the news, the sect master is actually protecting Su Zimo. Liu Ping nodded, not fully understanding. Princess Scarlet Rainbow frowned and asked, however, so many people from Heaven and Earth Academy witnessed the huge commotion today. Even if someone leaked it intentionally, how would he know who did it? Fufu, that's the power of the sect master. Elder Zhong smiled. He has supreme wisdom and can see through the heavenly secrets. Who is confident that he can hide from the sect master's senses and expose this matter at the risk of being killed? Furthermore, even if 1 or 2 people leak it, no one will believe it. A Grade 1 Heaven Immortal passed the trial of the 9 stone steps of the Tao Heart Stairs and created a 10th stone step to be accepted as an in-name disciple by the sect master of the academy. If we hadn't seen it with our own eyes, who would have believed it? Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Liu Ping nodded hurriedly with deep emotions. Even though they saw it with their own eyes, the two of them felt an extremely surreal feeling that lingered for a long time. Everyone, disperse. Su Zimo, stay behind. The sect master said indifferently. The 9 great elders retreated right away and disappeared into the void with astonishing methods. The other cultivators left swiftly as well. Before long, only the sect master, Old Xian, and Su Zimo were left on the sacrificial platform. You can understand my intentions, right? The sect master looked at Su Zimo and asked warmly. Su Zimo hesitated for a moment before nodding. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. The sect master said, your current cultivation realm is too low. It won't be good for you if news of this spreads. Once your cultivation realm is high enough to withstand everything, I'll naturally make this matter public. Su Zimo said, I understand. The sect master nodded slightly and continued, since you're an in-name disciple, you should train and cultivate in the inner sect first. Of course, if you have any cultivation doubts, you can look for me at any time. You can look for me as well. Suddenly, Old Xian interrupted from the side. Su Zimo was slightly stunned. Old Xian was only an old man guarding the secret pavilions. His actions seemed a little out of line and impolite. However, when Su Zimo saw that the sect master had a calm expression without any hint of reproach, he could not help but ponder internally. Su Zimo truly had a doubt towards cultivation. It was the strange runes in the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra with 600-odd words. Those runes were extremely similar to the runes on the wisdom step of the Tao Heart Stairs. Su Zimo was almost certain that the sect master knew about the strange runes and could help him resolve his doubts. However, The Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra originated from the primordial unity horsetail whip, and the latter came from the green lotus true body. Su Zimo was worried that there would be traces of information about the creation green lotus in the contents of the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra, and the existence of the green lotus true body would be exposed. Although he had already joined the sect master, this was the upper world after all. Out of caution, Su Zimo did not take the risk. Hey! Old Xian looked askance at the sect master and raised his brow. In-name disciples are also disciples. No matter what, you have to give him some gift. The sect master pondered for a moment and smiled. Suddenly, a small jade badge appeared in his palm. There were a few exquisite patterns etched on the badge. When Old Xian saw the badge, he nodded in a rare manner and urged Su Zimo, "This is not bad. Hurry and accept it. It can protect your life at critical moments. This is a teleportation jade badge." The sect master said, "As long as you're in the heavenly world, no matter where you are, as long as you encounter any danger you can't withstand, crush this badge and you'll be able to return to Heaven and Earth Academy at any time." This teleportation jade badge was equivalent to the major transference talisman of Tianhuang mainland. However, in the upper world, only immortal king experts whose cultivation had to reach the grotto heaven realm had the ability to travel through the void freely. In that case, this teleportation jade badge could indeed be considered as a life-saving jade badge. It was not easy to refine a teleportation jade badge as such. Typically, among the legacy disciples of immortal king experts, only the most valued ones would be accorded with one. Chapter 2286, 2286 Will of the 10th Stone Step. 2286 Will of the 10th Stone Step. Su Zimo received the teleportation jade badge and put it away, secretly delighted. Something like this was a true lifesaver. Back in Tianhuang mainland, Master Xian Bei gave him a major transference talisman. It had a similar use as the teleportation jade badge and allowed him to escape death from the pursuit of a half-martial ancestor. Old Xian said, "Su Zimo, if you want to raise your cultivation in the heaven essence realm quickly, it's not enough to just cultivate in seclusion. At the earth essence realm, as long as one is talented enough and spends most of their time in seclusion cultivation, they can cultivate to become a grade 8 or 9 earth immortal. However, in the heaven essence realm, one needs sufficient experience. It's best if they have powerful opportunities and encounters so that they can achieve twice the results with half the effort. I've learned from the guidance." Su Zimo bowed slightly. For cultivators, opportunities and encounters were way too important on the path of cultivation that was a part of their fortune. Apart from the fact that Yun Ting specialized in the Tao of the Sword, the reason why his cultivation speed was so fast was also because he had obtained a few huge opportunities. Those were opportunities and encounters that would cause even heaven immortals and perfected immortals to be envious. Of course, I heard that you've offended many people in Divine Firmament mainland. You have to be careful when you head out to train. Old Xian reminded again. Su Zimo agreed hurriedly. Although Old Xian was clearly not his master, for some unknown reason, his attitude towards him seemed unusual. Furthermore, the sect master did not seem surprised towards this and had a calm expression. "I'll take my leave first." Old Xian waved his hand and took a casual step forward, disappearing into the void. Pest! Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Only immortal king experts should possess such method. To think that the old man guarding the Earthgrade secret pavilion was an immortal king expert and seemed to have a special status in the academy. You've just entered the heaven essence realm. It's better for you to cultivate in seclusion for a period of time to stabilize your cultivation realm and consolidate your foundation. The sect master said, "Many things happened today. I won't disturb you anymore." With that, the sect master turned to leave. Su Zimo opened his mouth slightly. He wanted to speak but hesitated. "Is there anything?" The sect master noticed Su Zimo's abnormality and took the initiative to ask with a warm expression. "Sect master, previously, on the way back to the academy from the Yang Immortal Kingdom, we were hunted down by an expert." "Who is he?" Su Zimo asked the greatest question in his mind during this period of time. From the voice of the sect master, He could tell that this was the person who saved them previously. The sect master did not reply and fell silent. A moment later, he shook his head gently. I can't tell you his identity for the time being, but you can rest assured that he won't attack you again in the future. Is he an immortal king? Suzimo asked again. Yes. The sect master nodded. The difference between you guys is too great. It's useless for you even if I reveal his identity now. When your cultivation realm is strong enough, I can tell you his identity. Suzimo was silent and did not ask further. Pretend that nothing happened and don't think too much about it. For you, the most important thing is to focus on cultivating and raise your cultivation as soon as possible. The sect master instructed before turning to leave. Suzimo took a deep breath of air. The sect master was not wrong. Right now, the most important thing for him was to raise his cultivation realm. Suzimo was prepared to enter seclusion once more. He had benefited immensely after returning from the 10,000-year meet. Now that the Prajna Nirvana Sutra was complete, his essence spirit would definitely improve if he continued comprehending it. The Hell Suppression Tripod was completely repaired and he had yet to cultivate the legacy secret skill of the fourth tripod wall. There was also the Primordial Unity Horsetail Whip and the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra. For this seclusion, rather than to just raise his cultivation, he had many things to comprehend as well. At that thought, Suzimo no longer hesitated and turned to leave the sacrificial platform. He sped towards his cave abode and entered seclusion. Although he was entering seclusion, the impact of this matter in Heaven and Earth Academy was still ongoing. For a long time to come, he would become the center of discussion for disciples of the Academy. After that incident, the number of Academy disciples who ascended the Tao Heart Stairs increased significantly daily. However, for everyone, the Tao Heart Stairs was still the same. No one else managed to achieve anything shocking and most Academy disciples could not surpass the third step still. What everyone discussed the most was what Tao Heart will Suzimo left behind on the 10th stone step. However, no one could ascend it so naturally, nobody knew what was there. A year later. It was only now that the Tao Heart Stairs gradually returned to normal. At times, nobody might even come for days. This night, there was no one around the Tao Heart Stairs. Suddenly, without any warning, a figure in a Confucian robe appeared in the skies above the Tao Heart Stairs. After the figure appeared, he waved his sleeves gently and formed an invisible barrier around the Tao Heart Stairs, isolating it from the outside world. The Confucian-robed man looked at the Tao Heart Stairs and his deep eyes shone with a strange glint. A moment later, the Confucian-robed man stepped onto the first step of the Tao Heart Stairs. In just a few breaths, the Confucian-robed man ascended to the second step. After a few more breaths, the Confucian-robed man ascended to the third step. The Tao Heart trial on the Tao Heart Stairs did not seem to have much of an impact on the Confucian-robed man. The Confucian-robed man walked up the stone steps and merely paused for a brief moment with each step. It did not cause much of a stir for him. In the blink of an eye, the Confucian-robed man had already ascended to the 8th stone step. Right then, another Academy disciple passed by and glanced over with a calm expression. The Confucian-robed man stood on the 8th stone step of the Tao Heart Stairs. However, in the eyes of the cultivator, there was still no one on it. This was a method similar to a disguise, but it was extremely brilliant. Even an immortal king might not be able to see through it. If this Academy disciple could see the Confucian-robed man on the Tao Heart Stairs, he would definitely be shocked. That was because the Confucian-robed man ascending the Tao Heart Stairs was the sect master of the Academy. The Academy disciple passed by this place and left quickly without stopping. The sect master had a calm expression as he took another step and ascended to the 9th stone step. The 9th stone step was the wisdom step that he had condensed. Naturally, the Tao Heart will of this level did not affect him at all. The sect master raised his head slightly and looked at the stone step above the 9th step. He smiled gently and murmured, "I'm curious what a Tao Heart that can surpass me is like." As he said that, the sect master lifted the hem of his Confucian robes and strode onto the 10th stone step. The moment his foot landed on 10th stone step, an unimaginably massive will descended from the skies and surged over like a volcano that was about to explode. The sect master had never felt such a powerful Tao heart will. It was fearless, courageous, bold, and filled with wisdom. It was relentless against all beings that stood in its way. The skies could not cover it, nor could the ground bury it. That Tao heart was brighter than the stars in the skies and shone resplendently with raging flames. Even his Tao heart could not defend against that will and began to burn. The sect master's expression changed starkly as he shuddered and fell from the Tao heart stairs. He stabilized himself in midair and landed slowly on the ground. He had failed. The sect master had a conflicted expression. Even he could not reach the 10th stone step of the Tao heart stairs. Chapter 2287, 2287 Coincidence. 2287 Coincidence. Ha 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 ha. Right then, an ear-piercing laughter sounded from behind the sect master of the academy. The sect master did not turn back, nor was he surprised. In the academy, there were less than 10 people who could see through his disguise technique. This man was one of them. Standing not far away, old Xian crossed his arms and said mockingly with a gloating expression, "To think that this would happen to you as well, eh? What a coincidence." The sect master turned around and looked at old Xian, who was not far away, asking with a smile, "Heh, this is no coincidence." Old Xian pouted. "I've been waiting for you in the vicinity for a year. Others might not know you, but do you think I don't understand you? Given your temperament, you won't be able to endure it if you see someone condense a 10th stone step above your wisdom step. However, I didn't expect you to be able to endure for a year before coming over secretly. If you waited any longer, I would have left." The sect master did not show any embarrassment after his thoughts were seen through. He merely shook his head and smiled. "You sure are free. Hee hee." Old Xian laughed again. "Notwithstanding the fact that you snuck over, you even set up a disguise, afraid that others would know. You clearly have no confidence and know that you won't be able to pass the 10th stone step." Old Xian had known the sect master for many years. However, the latter was incomparably intelligent and meticulous. He had never seen the latter suffer any losses. Now that he had finally caught the sect master in an embarrassing moment, old Xian was excited. "Let's not talk about me anymore. Do you want to give it a try?" the sect master asked with a smile. "No way." Old Xian rolled his eyes and pouted. "Wouldn't it be embarrassing if I can't even pass your wisdom step? There's no way I'm going to let you get a hold on me." The sect master smiled gently. "However, speaking of which..." Suddenly, old Xian asked sternly, "What's the Tao heart will left behind by that lad on the 10th stone step?" "I'm not sure." The sect master shook his head. "This will is extremely brave and powerful. It has the sharpness of the sword Tao, unyielding resistance, fearlessness as well as carefree joy. I've seen countless Tao hearts, but I've never seen such a Tao heart. Who cares?" Old Xian waved it off. "In any case, he's a good seedling. Once he enters the perfected immortal realm, we'll see who can take him in with our own capabilities." "No problem." The sect master nodded with a smile and waved his sleeves, prepared to leave. "Why, you don't intend to try again after failing just once?" Old Xian raised his brow and instigated. "What if I try again and fail? Won't I be mocked by you again?" The voice of the sect master sounded and he had already vanished. At the same time, the disguise technique around the Tao heart stairs dissipated silently without a trace. A gentle breeze blew past and there was no one left beside the Tao heart stairs. Unknowingly, old Xian had already left as well. Peace returned to this place. In a cave abode of the inner sect, a grade 9 heaven immortal who was done with his seclusion opened his eyes slowly and floated down from the praying mat. It was the inner sect disciple of the academy, young Ruoxu. Not far away, a young boy stood. "Young master, why is your seclusion so short this time round?" The boy brewed a pot of tea at the side and sent it to young Ruoxu. "My cultivation has encountered a bottleneck and it's difficult for me to advance if I merely cultivate in seclusion." Young Ruoxu shook his head gently and took the teacup. He took a deep breath and drank it in one gulp, despite the tea being scorching. He had been a grade 9 heaven immortal for a period of time now. However, It was truly extremely difficult to break through the barrier between heaven immortals and perfected immortals. The difference between a heaven immortal and a perfected immortal was like a chasm. Even the black, earth and heaven essence realms combined could not compare to it. There were hundreds of thousands of inner sect disciples in the academy. Many of the inner sect disciples were grade 9 heaven immortals and were stuck. In fact, some grade 9 heaven immortals would not be able to become perfected immortals and advance to the perfected 1 realm in their entire lives. For that group of grade 9 heaven immortals, as they grew older and saw no hope of breaking through, they sought a position as idol elders in the inner sect. Anyone who could join Heaven and Earth Academy were all paragons that had been through ferocious storms in life. Even so, many people could not advance to the perfected 1 realm. It was clear how difficult it was. There were only a few hundred legacy disciples in the academy. Young Ruoxu was in no hurry and his mind was calm. He was not old and was less than 100,000 years old. There was enough time. As long as he could obtain a rare opportunity or encounter, he could advance to the perfected 1 realm. Did anything happen in the academy during this year? Young Ruoxu asked casually. The boy said, nothing much. In the past year, the most discussed thing in the academy was the matter of Mr. Su passing the Tao Heart Stairs and condensing the 10th stone step. Oh. Young Ruoxu replied indifferently, this matter has a huge impact. In the future, it might become the focus of discussion for everyone in the academy. Young master, I heard that you have a close relationship with Mr. Su. Why didn't you meet him this time round? The boy was curious and frowned slightly. You're alone in the inner sect and don't have many confidants. Can't you hang out more with Mr. Su? A year ago, when Su Zimo passed the Tao Heart Stairs trial and condensed the 10th stone step, Young Ruoxu received the news right away as well. However, he did not choose to head to the Tao Heart Stairs to meet and congratulate Su Zimo. On that day, the boy merely witnessed Young Ruoxu being slightly happier than usual. The latter specially opened a jar of wine and stood in front of his cave abode as he congratulated Su Zimo from afar. The boy was puzzled. Young Ruoxu said, I've made many enemies in the academy. Interacting with him will only cause trouble for him. It won't. The boy said, Fang Qingyun and the others are the only ones who have a feud with him. I heard that Mr. Su has already been accepted as a disciple by the sect master. If you can interact more with him, Fang Qingyun and the others won't even dare to cause trouble for you anymore as well. Young Ruoxu remained silent and shook his head. He knew that Su Zimo was accepted as an in-name disciple by the sect master. However, in-name disciples were far from actual disciples. Furthermore, even if he was an actual disciple, Su Zimo was ranked behind Sword Immortal Yu Hua. Be it in terms of identity or cultivation realm, Su Zimo was inferior to Sword Immortal Yu Hua. He had a feeling that the person who truly wanted to deal with him was not Fang Qingyun and the others, but the personal disciple of the sect master in the legacy ground, Sword Immortal Yu Hua. The origin of that hostility was because of the immortal sect selection more than 1,000 years ago. At that time, he was spared because of the appearance of painting Immortal Mo Qing. A year ago, another change happened in the outer sect of the academy. At that time, for some unknown reason, when he was in danger, painting Immortal Mo Qing appeared once more and saved him. Chapter 2288 Waiting for a Chance. 2288 Waiting for a Chance. Divine Firmament Mainland, Hui Yin Mountain. Countless towering ancient trees covered the skies. On the peak, someone had built a spacious pavilion. Standing here, one could appreciate the magnificent scenery of the Hui Yin mountain range. This day, a gigantic crane flew over from the west. On its back sat a young man with a dark expression. He was a grade 9 heaven immortal and his facial features were 70% similar to the inner sect disciple of Heaven and Earth Academy, Pang Yu. This was another direct descendant of the Pang clan, Pang Yu's brother, Pang Yi. The two brothers were extremely outstanding among the younger generation of the Pang clan and were specially groomed by the family clan. Pang Yu joined Heaven and Earth Academy while Pang Yi joined Imperial Wind Temple. In terms of combat strength, Pang Yi was even above Pang Yu. Leaping down from the crane's back, Pang Yi frowned instinctively when he saw that the pavilion was empty. He found a stone chair and sat down quietly, closing his eyes to rest. Before long, more than 10 figures sped over from the east. They were clad in armor and shone with cold lights. With sabers on their waists, they were all top-tier heaven immortals. Execution guards. Pang Yi opened his eyes and recognized their backgrounds right away. The emblem of the execution guards was way too obvious. A brocade-robed man stood in the middle of the execution guards with a demonic look in his eyes. Pang Yi stood up slowly and cupped his fists. "So, it's Prince Yuan-Zhe. Nice to meet you." After all, Prince Yuan-Zhe was once the prince who ruled over a county of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. He was famous and Pang Yi had seen him before from afar. "You are?" Prince Yuan-Zhe was slightly stunned when he saw Pang Yi. "I'm Pang Yi of the Pang clan. Right now, I'm an inner sect disciple of Imperial Wind Temple." Pang Yi reported his identity. Prince Yuan-Zhe raised his brow slightly and a thought flashed through his mind. He quickly understood and asked, "You were also invited by fellow Daoist Qingyun?" "I am." Pang Yi nodded and did not hide anything. "However, fellow Daoist Qingyun doesn't seem to be here yet. Let's wait a little more." Prince Yuan-Zhe sat on a stone chair as well. Before long, a figure appeared from the south. In a few breaths, he arrived and descended. "Ah, fellow Daoist Gui Yuan of Flying Immortal Sect." Pang Yi stood up and greeted with cupped fists. Among the inner sect disciples of Flying Immortal Sect, the combat strength of Heaven Immortal Gui Yuan was ranked top 5. Prince Yuan-Zhe did not stand up and merely sat on the stone chair. He cupped his fists and smiled. "If I'm not wrong, fellow Daoist Gui Yuan was invited by fellow Daoist Qingyun as well, right?" "Yes." Heaven Immortal Gui Yuan did not talk much. Right then, a bejeweled serpent carriage drove over slowly from the horizon not far away. The driver of the carriage had white hair and was dull and expressionless. However, everyone present felt a chill run down their spines the moment they exchanged glances with the driver. More than 10 execution guards surrounded Prince Yuan-Zhe hurriedly with nervous expressions. The carriage stopped in midair and the curtains of the carriage were lifted. A graceful and dignified young man walked out. This time round, even Prince Yuan-Zhe stood up. "Greetings, Prince Tianhong." Prince Yuan-Zhe, Pang Yi, and Heaven Immortal Gui Yuan stood up and cupped fists. Prince Yuan-Zhe had already lost his influence in the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. However, Xie Tianhong of the Yangyang Immortal Kingdom still ruled over a territory and had an extremely high status. "There are so many people." Xie Tianhong was surprised. "Everyone, sorry for the wait." Right then, a voice sounded slowly. By the time he said the last word, Fang Qingyun had already descended on the peak of Huiyin Mountain with Tang Peng right behind him. "Fellow Daoist Qingyun, what's going on?" Xie Tianhong frowned and asked. "Everyone, please take a seat." Fang Qingyun was in no hurry to explain. After everyone sat down again, he said in a deep voice, "The reason why I gathered everyone today is because for the past year, all of you have sent me messages asking about Suzimo. Of course, I know your intentions as well." Prince Yuan-Zhe, Xie Tianhong, and the other 3 exchanged glances with a tacit understanding. Everyone present more or less knew about the feud between Suzimo and one another. Prince Yuan-Zhe smiled. "To think that apart from me, there are actually so many experts who want to kill this person. I don't have any feud with him. I was merely entrusted by senior sister Meng Yarrow to take his life." Heaven Immortal Gui Yuan said indifferently. Pang Yi said coldly, "My brother was killed by him. I'm going to make him pay with his blood." Xie Tianhong did not explain. The reason why he wanted to deal with Suzimo was entirely to curry favor with Zither Immortal Meng Yarrow. After everyone was done, Fang Qingyun spoke slowly, "Fellow Taoists, pardon me for being blunt. It won't be easy to deal with Suzimo now. He has just advanced to the Heaven Immortal realm. Any one of us can kill him with ease. What's so difficult about that?" Prince Yuan-Zhe sneered, "All we have to do is find an opportunity and wait for him to leave Heaven and Earth Academy." Fang Qingyun was silent. Since the sect master of the academy had once set a gag order, he naturally did not dare to tell outsiders about what happened in the inner sect. When Pang Yi saw Fang Qingyun's silence, he thought that the latter was in a difficult position on account of their relationship as fellow sect mates. Fellow Daoist Qingyun, if Su Zimo were to leave Heaven and Earth Academy, all you have to do is send us the news. You don't have to do anything. Fang Qingyun shook his head. Even if he leaves Heaven and Earth Academy, it won't be easy to kill him in the territory of Divine Firmament Mainland. Su Zimo was taken in by the sect master as an in-name disciple. In Divine Firmament Mainland, if Prince Yuan's were and the others mobilized a large number of experts to kill Su Zimo, there was a high chance that the sect master would sense it. Brother Qingyun, what do you mean by that? Prince Yuan's were could tell that Fang Qingyun was implying something. Fang Qingyun did not explain. In any case, the reason why I gathered everyone here today is to tell you guys not to act rashly and alert the enemy. It's not impossible to deal with Su Zimo, but we have to wait patiently for an opportunity. Everyone, don't worry. If there's a good opportunity, I'll tell you right away. At that time, please use all your strength and do not understand him. We'll kill him then. Xie Tianhong replied, that's good enough. There's no hurry to kill him right away. However, everyone wants a piece of the pie. At that time, let's see who will be the one who can get the kill on him. Prince Yuan's were narrowed his eyes. If our four factions join forces and wait for an opportunity, he'll definitely die. Fiend Domain. After 1,000 years, Tianhuang sect grew extremely quickly in this corner of the Fiend Domain. Heavenly Wolf had the memories and experience of his previous life and was once the Seven Emotions Fiend King. He was extremely familiar with how to expand his territory, devour and annex places. In this aspect, there was no one more suitable than Heavenly Wolf. In the first few decades, the martial Dao Prime body stood in to help Heavenly Wolf deal with some tough opponents. Later on, the martial Dao Prime body handed almost everything in Tianhuang sect to Heavenly Wolf and allowed the latter to manage and develop while he chose to enter seclusion to divine the martial Dao. After 1,000 years, the territory of Tianhuang sect was dozens of times larger than before and had already become the strongest black-grade sect in the vicinity. Chapter 2289, 2289 Place of Death. 2289 Place of Death. Even though Tianhuang sect was growing stronger by the day, it was difficult to break through its upper limit. Without a perfected immortal presiding over things, no matter how much territory it annexed or how many disciples it had, it would still be a black-grade sect. For the past 1,000 years, the martial Dao Prime body had never stopped deducing the dharmic formulation of the martial Dao. The many cultivation techniques and secret skills sent over by the Green Lotus True Body, such as the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, which was a taboo mystic classic, were of great help to him and he comprehended them. However, he still had a long way to go before he could deduce the next step of cultivation. In that 1,000 years, although Tianhuang sect was established and expanded continuously, the martial Dao Prime body did not meet any other old friends of Tianhuang mainland. The martial Dao Prime body was not surprised about that. The Fiend Domain was ranked alongside the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain and was vast. The Green Lotus True Body had ascended for many years, but he had only met an old friend who came from Tianhuang mainland hundreds of thousands of years ago. The martial Dao Prime body was in a corner of the Fiend Domain. It was not so easy to meet old friends. All these years, the martial Dao Prime body had not expended any cultivation resources and his cultivation realm had not advanced at all. He was still at the perfected level 9 Fate Ring realm. For the current martial Dao Prime body, Essence Spirit Stones and Essence Spirit Liquid were useless. Without the dharmic formulation for the next step of cultivation, no amount of cultivation resources would be of any help to him. As for Heavenly Wolf, his cultivation realm advanced by leaps and bounds with the help of his previous life's memories and a large number of cultivation resources. Actually, in a sense, Heavenly Wolf could be considered as a reincarnated immortal and was even stronger than immortal Taihua and Fengyin. In their previous lives, Taihua and Fengyin were only perfected immortals. As for Heavenly Wolf, he was the 7 Emotions Fiend King in his previous life and had once followed Emperor Bo Zun. In terms of experience, be it for cultivation or general matters, he was far superior to others. With a secret skill, Heavenly Wolf improved the body of this moon-devouring Heavenly Wolf by a few levels. He had practically undergone a complete transformation. 1,000 years ago, the moon-devouring Heavenly Wolf was only a grade 9 black immortal. But now, his cultivation realm had already broken through to the Heaven Essence realm. Even Yun Ting could not match such a cultivation speed. As for Yang Beichen, he had the Hatred Sutra as a foundation, and the hatred in his heart was strong. It had already seeped into his bones, and his cultivation realm advanced by leaps and bounds after cultivating the Fiend Obsession Sutra. Of course, although Yang Beichen's cultivation increased rapidly, he could not compare to Heavenly Wolf, who had the memories of his previous life. In 1,000 years, Yang Beichen had already cultivated to become a grade 9 Earth Immortal. That cultivation speed was extremely terrifying as well. Many fiend techniques were unorthodox and allowed users to cultivate at an extremely fast speed. However, the accompanying backlash was extremely obvious as well. Back when Yang Beichen cultivated the Fiend Obsession Sutra, it was because his essence spirit was severely injured and was almost at the end of its road. Even the martial Tao prime body was helpless. The only way to save his life was to cultivate the Fiend Obsession Sutra. Back then, Heavenly Wolf had once said that cultivating the Fiend Obsession Sutra would only suppress Yang Beichen's essence spirit injuries temporarily and ease them. If anything unexpected happened, history would repeat itself in the future. For the past 1,000 years, while Tianhuang sect grew, it was also searching for healing immortal herbs that could heal the essence spirit. However, such immortal herbs were way too precious. Even in other parts of the fiend domain or some massive sect or faction, they might not be able to find it, let alone this remote corner of the fiend domain. This day, the martial Tao prime body was in seclusion when the sound of clothes fluttering could be heard from outside. The intruder was extremely fast. "Master," Heavenly Wolf's voice sounded. The martial Tao prime body's heart sank. He could tell that there was something unusual in Heavenly Wolf's voice and understood that something major might have happened. He opened his eyes and broke out of seclusion. "What's going on?" The martial Tao prime body asked bluntly. "Yang Beichen can't take it anymore." Heavenly Wolf shrugged his shoulders and spread his hands. At this cultivation realm, he could transform into a human. Right now, the person standing in front of Su Zimo was a burly man with short silver hair and a ferocious expression. Heavenly Wolf did not have much feelings for Yang Beichen. However, he knew that the martial Tao prime body had a deep relationship with Yang Beichen and he could not hide this matter. "His essence spirit injuries?" the martial Tao prime body asked. Heavenly Wolf nodded and said, "I've already said that cultivating the Fiend Obsession Sutra can only suppress his essence spirit injuries at most. It can't be healed and can explode at any moment." Previously, he was in seclusion cultivation and was prepared to break through the barrier of the Heaven Essence realm. Unexpectedly, he failed and his essence spirit injuries exploded. Even the obsession fiend Qi could not suppress his injuries. "Where is he?" the martial Tao prime body asked. "The main hall of Tianhuang sect." Heavenly Wolf replied. Without saying anything, the martial Tao prime body moved and headed for the main hall of Tianhuang sect. Before long, he arrived outside. In the hall, Yang Beichen leaned against a chair with a pale expression. His eyes were half opened and his life force was weak. It was clear that he was at the end of his road. Apart from him, there were 7 other Heaven Immortal experts in the hall. There were men and women and their cultivation realms were extremely high. They were all at the level of grade 8 or 9 Heaven Immortals. When the Heaven Immortal experts saw the martial Tao prime body arrive, they shuddered and stood up hurriedly. They had heard of this person's notorious reputation. The 7 of them knew that although Heavenly Wolf was in charge of Tianhuang sect on the surface, the true master of Tianhuang sect was the mysterious purple-robed man with the silver mask. The martial Tao prime body arrived before Yang Beichen and released his spirit consciousness to scan the latter's body. He frowned beneath the silver mask with a grim expression. Yang Beichen was in an extremely bad condition. To be precise, if not for the obsession fiend Qi cultivated from the Fiend Obsession Sutra to maintain the remnant life force in Yang Beichen's body, he would have died a long time ago. You're here. As though he sensed something, Yang Beichen tried his best to open his eyes. He glanced at Su Zimo and his lips twitched as he forced a smile. Oh. In his embrace, the white sable whimpered softly in extreme sadness. I can't hold on any longer and can't fight with you anymore. You'll have to walk down this path alone in the future. Yang Beichen said with difficulty. He had to rest a few times in between just to say that sentence. Brother Yang, there must be a way to save you. The martial Dao Prime Body turned to Heavenly Wolf and asked, you once said that the complete cultivation technique that Emperor Bozun cultivated is the Fiend Obsession Buddha Karmic Sutra. If we find the other Buddha Karma Sutra, won't we be able to save his life? There's indeed hope, but... Heavenly Wolf had a troubled expression and paused for a moment before saying, the reason why Emperor Bozun imparted the Fiend Obsession Sutra to me was so that I could control the Mara mask. Only obsession can sever the 7 emotions. However, I don't know the Buddha Karmic Sutra at all. You don't, but Emperor Bozun definitely does. The martial Dao Prime Body said blandly. However, Emperor Bozun has already died for many years. Heavenly Wolf said, furthermore, he doesn't have any disciples at all. It's impossible for anyone in this world to understand the complete Fiend Obsession Buddha Karmic Sutra. You said that Emperor Bozun died in the Pure Land of Bliss. The martial Dao Prime Body asked again. That's right. Heavenly Wolf nodded. Thereafter, as though he recalled something, a look of fear flashed through his eyes as he asked with a trembling voice, why are you not thinking of going to the place where Emperor Bozun died to look for the Fiend Obsession Buddha Karmic Sutra, right? That's the only place where I can find the complete cultivation technique. The martial Dao Prime Body said in a deep voice. See crazy. Heavenly Wolf shook his head repeatedly. That's impossible. There's no way we can get to that place at all. Where did he die? The martial Dao Prime Body asked again with a burning gaze. In. Heavenly Wolf hesitated for a long time before saying slowly, Avicii. Chapter 2290 Death of Bozun. 2290 Death of Bozun. Avicii. Even with the temperament of the martial Dao Prime Body, his expression changed slightly when he heard those words. In an ancient era of the upper world, the Buddhist monasteries gave birth to a supreme expert who refined his flesh into a purgatory in order to suppress many evil demons. In order to suppress this purgatory, this expert created an unprecedented supreme weapon, the Hell Suppression Tripod. The taboo mystic classic of the Buddhist monasteries, the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, was etched within the tripod. The 4 walls of the tripod are fused with the souls of the 4 sacred beasts, causing the Hell Suppression Tripod's power to increase significantly. This supreme expert's Dao title was Infinite and he was known throughout the world as the Infinite Great Emperor. The purgatory refined from the flesh of the Infinite Great Emperor was Avicii. The martial Dao Prime Body could understand why the Infinite Great Emperor created Avicii in the Pure Land of Bliss back then. After all, the Infinite Great Emperor came from the Pure Land of Bliss to begin with. However, how did Emperor Bozun die in Avicii? According to what you said, the Infinite Great Emperor was a supreme expert of the ancient era and has been around for hundreds of millions of years. However, Emperor Bozun was an expert of this generation. Why would he be buried in Avicii? The martial Dao Prime Body asked with a frown. Throughout history, Avicii has always been a forbidden ground of the upper world. Heavenly Wolf said, it's said that even emperors won't be able to escape the moment they fall into Avicii. There are 3 infinites, infinite time, infinite space and infinite suffering. After the infinite era was the longevity era and thereafter came the current era. It's said that the longevity great emperor of the past came to the heavenly world and stood in front of Avicii for a long time. In the end, he did not step foot into it. The martial Dao Prime Body's heart skipped a beat. Even a great emperor of another era did not dare to step foot into Avicii and was wary. It was clear how terrifying this purgatory was. But what has this got to do with Emperor Bozun? The martial Dao Prime Body asked. Heavenly Wolf was immersed in his memories. After a long time, he said slowly, my master severed his 7 emotions and 6 desires. He possessed a Buddha and fiend body that was unprecedented and was only a half step away from becoming a great emperor. Nobody in the current era of the heavenly world is a match for my old master. After my old master unified the fiend domain, he was prepared to conquer the Pure Land of Bliss and finally flatten the 9-firmament Immortal domain to unify the entire heavenly world. However, this action made the emperors of the Pure Land of Bliss and 9-firmament Immortal domain feel immensely threatened. Therefore, the emperors of the 9-firmament Immortal domain and Pure Land of Bliss joined forces with the emperors of other domains, and more than 20 emperors joined forces to kill my old master. The location of that battle was at Tai Wei Mountain in the Pure Land of Bliss. The martial Tao Prime Body asked, Emperor Bo Zun didn't have anyone supporting him? Heavenly Wolf said, everything happened so suddenly. My old master only had a single good friend by his side, an emperor of the Sword World. The martial Tao Prime Body was silent. This was equivalent to Emperor Bo Zun and the Emperor of the Sword World fighting 1 against 10. An Emperor of the Sword World? Suddenly, a thought flashed through the mind of the martial Tao Prime Body as he pondered in deep thought. My master has the body of a Buddha and fiend, and his cultivation of the Buddhist and fiend Taos far surpasses other emperors. Coupled with powerful emperor weapons such as the Jidu saber and the Mara mask, he's almost immortal. Heavenly Wolf said, the immortal emperors of the 9-firmament Immortal domain and the monks of the Pure Land of Bliss knew that even if they joined forces, it would be difficult for them to kill my old master. As long as my old master did not die and his injuries were healed, it would be the end for them once he made a comeback. When he heard that, the martial Tao Prime Body realized a fact and he blurted, so, they knew that they could not kill Emperor Bo Zun and joined forces to send him to Avicii? That's right. Heavenly Wolf nodded. The truth was as those immortal emperors expected. Even though they had the advantage in numbers, they could not kill my old master and merely injured him severely. On our side, we suffered immense losses and more than half of us died. After that battle, more than half of the 9-firmament Immortal domain changed owners. Although Heavenly Wolf's tone was calm, the martial Tao Prime Body could still sense the tragic battle of the past from his tone. Immortal emperors were already existences that stood at the peak of the upper world, but they still died. My old master was severely injured and could not defend against their attacks. Eventually, he was sent to Avicii and I was severely injured as well. There's no way to heal in Avicii. There are countless malevolent ghosts inside that were biting and devouring the flesh of my old master at all times. The malevolent ghosts in Avicii were also incredible experts in the past. Heavenly Wolf's expression dimmed slightly. My old master was severely injured and could not defend against it. Eventually, he died and his life force dissipated in Avicii. No living beings that enter Avicii can leave. Pausing for a moment, Heavenly Wolf added with deep tremor in his eyes, as though he had a lingering fear when he recalled that terrifying experience. Not necessarily. Suddenly, the martial Tao Prime Body said, at the very least, you escaped from Avicii. I'm puzzled about that as well. Heavenly Wolf said, at that time, something happened in Avicii and it swayed continuously, as though it could collapse at any moment. Thereafter, I seized the opportunity to escape. For some reason, the Hell Suppression tripod fell into Tianhuang mainland in the lower worlds at the same time. The martial Tao Prime Body pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, that Emperor of the Sword World knows the 3 great sword arts, right? That's right. Heavenly Wolf nodded. The martial Tao Prime Body closed his eyes and pondered for a long time. Gradually, he sorted out the entire matter and said, in other words, the Battle of Emperor Bo Zun's death probably happened during the primordial era of Tianhuang mainland. It was also because of this battle that the 3 great sword arts ended up in Tianhuang mainland. Later on, tens of thousands of years ago, a huge change happened in Avicii, causing you and the Hell Suppression tripod to fall to the lower worlds at the same time. At that point, the martial Tao Prime Body paused for a moment before saying, there's something else that I don't know. When did the Hell Suppression tripod shatter? Was it the Infinite Era, the Longevity Era, or was it in that unforeseen event tens of thousands of years ago? That's impossible. Heavenly Wolf jumped in shock. The Hell Suppression tripod is an emperor weapon. Who in the current era can shatter it? The martial Tao prime body remained silent. Initially, he thought that the search for the fiend obsession Buddha Karmic Sutra was related to Emperor Bozun. To think that the infinite great emperor as well as an unprecedented battle of the past would be implicated. The search for the fiend obsession Buddha Karmic Sutra might be even more difficult than he had imagined. Prepare yourself to move at any moment, the martial Tao prime body said firmly. We're still going. Heavenly Wolf winced with a resistant expression. Avicii is a forbidden ground of the upper world and we won't be able to return. What if we end up losing our lives instead of being able to save Yang Beichen? It's not for certain that we won't be able to return. The martial Tao prime body said, without the suppression of the hell suppression tripod, there should be life force and openings in Avicii. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to escape back then. Even though he said that, the martial Tao prime body was not confident. That was merely his speculation. He did not know what dangers he would encounter on this trip to the Pure Land of Bliss. Everything was unknown. The only thing the martial Tao prime body was certain of was that no matter how dangerous the path ahead was, he had to do his best to extend Yang Beichen's life. Chapter 2291, 2291 Meru World. 2291 Meru World. When Heavenly Wolf saw that Suzimo was determined, he rolled his eyes and laughed dryly. Master, I'll prepare a map of the Pure Land of Bliss for you right away. You can set off with Brother Yang Beichen at any moment. Pausing for a moment, he patted his chest and said heroically, leave Tianhuang sect to me. Don't worry, Master. I won't let anything happen to Tianhuang sect. Master, the heavens will bless you and you will definitely be able to resolve all dangers in this trip. Every day, I'll lead everyone from Tianhuang sect to pray for your victory. The martial Tao prime body glanced sideways expressionlessly on his cold silver mask. Heavenly Wolf felt uncomfortable from the gaze of the martial Tao prime body and his goosebumps rose. His thoughts seemed to be completely exposed under the gaze of the martial Tao prime body. The martial Tao prime body said calmly, if I head to the Pure Land of Bliss, I'll definitely bring you along. What for? Heavenly Wolf wailed, I don't want to go. That place was a nightmare for him. Die alone if you want to, don't drag me along. Heavenly Wolf cursed internally. Furthermore, if the martial Tao prime body died inside, he would be able to regain his freedom completely and would be overjoyed. The martial Tao prime body said, even if there's a map and I can find Avicii, I don't know the situation within. You're the only one who can find Emperor Bozun's corpse since you once stayed there for a period of time. It's too big inside and I can't find it either. Heavenly Wolf waved it off hurriedly and shook his head repeatedly. You won't be able to hide from this. The martial Tao prime body said, you had better pray that we can all return alive. If we leave, what about Tianhuang sect? Heavenly Wolf asked again. The martial Tao prime body looked at the 7 heaven immortal experts standing not far behind Heavenly Wolf and said indifferently, haven't you subdued and recruited a few loyal subordinates all these years? You can hand it over to them for the time being. Although the martial Tao prime body made that statement nonchalantly, Heavenly Wolf's heart skipped a beat. For the past 1,000 years, he made use of the secret skill of the fiend domain in the past to subdue the 7 grade 8 and 9 heaven immortals with the greatest potential and combat strength in the vicinity. He named the 7 of them the 7 emotions fiend generals and controlled Tianhuang sect. They corresponded to the 7 emotions of joy, anger, sorrow, fear, love, hatred and lust. If the martial Tao prime body could not break through and he entered the perfected one realm first to become a perfected fiend, he would be able to break free from the restriction placed on his essence spirit by the martial Tao prime body. The 7 emotions fiend generals were existences with the highest chance of entering the perfected one realm and becoming perfected fiends. At that time, with the help of the 7 emotions fiend generals, he would be able to control Tianhuang sect completely and break free from the control of the martial Tao prime body. That would be the day he would become the true 7 emotions fiend king once more. These were merely thoughts Heavenly Wolf harbored, but he did not dare to pin too much hope on them, nor did he mention them to anyone else lest the martial Tao prime body was alerted. At that moment, Heavenly Wolf could not help but feel guilty when the martial Tao prime body suddenly mentioned this. When Heavenly Wolf saw that he could not avoid it, he could only resign to his fate. Coughing gently, he turned to look at the 7 emotions fiend generals behind him and said in a deep voice, "I'll leave Tianhuang's sect to you guys for the time being. During this period of time, don't provoke other sects and factions and develop in a low-profile manner." Additionally, the news of my departure with the sect master must not spread. Only the 7 of you shall know about it. Understood. The 7 emotions fiend generals agreed at the same time. Heavenly Wolf waved his hand and the 7 emotions demon generals understood and bid farewell. "Brother Yang, let's go," the martial Tao prime body said before looking at Heavenly Wolf, indicating for the latter to transform into his true form and carry Yang Beichen on his back. Heavenly Wolf had a troubled expression. "We haven't left the territory of Tianhuang's sect yet. If I transform and carry him out, it'll be really embarrassing if we're seen by the cultivators of Tianhuang's sect." The martial Tao prime body remained silent and glared at Heavenly Wolf through the cold Mara mask with deep eyes. When Heavenly Wolf recalled the torture of thousands of years and the methods of the martial Tao prime body, he shuddered and hurriedly transformed into his moon-devouring Heavenly Wolf form. "One has to bow down when they're under someone else's roof." Heavenly Wolf muttered internally, "Things will change after I advance to the perfected One realm and break free from the restriction. Just wait and see." "Zimo, don't go." Yang Beichen's expression dimmed and he no longer had the strength to straighten his body. He could only lie on Heavenly Wolf's back with a weak voice. "Brother Yang, there's no need to say more for the relationship between us." The martial Tao prime body shook his head gently and took a step forward, removing the white sable on Yang Beichen. When the white sable saw that it was about to separate from Yang Beichen, it struggled continuously and squeaked. "It's a dangerous trip and the future is uncertain. We might not make it back alive. It's better for you not to follow." The martial Tao prime body said, "I'm sure Brother Yang wouldn't want you to take the risk as well." Yang Beichen no longer had the strength to speak and merely nodded. The white sable no longer struggled and merely looked at Yang Beichen in a daze. Its eyes were filled with deep reluctance and a crystalline glint. The martial Tao prime body took a deep breath and placed the white sable aside. He patted Heavenly Wolf and whispered, "Let's go to the teleportation formation." As Tianhuang's sect grew and expanded continuously, they discovered a large teleportation formation in an ancient ruin. However, it was corroded by time and was already dilapidated. Heavenly Wolf was the one who used his memories to repair the teleportation formation. Even with a spirit vessel, it would take them hundreds of days to head to the Pure Land of Bliss. Nobody knew what other changes might happen during such a long journey. Yang Beichen could not hold on for that long. The only way to reach the Pure Land of Bliss right away was by making use of the large teleportation formation. For this trip to the Pure Land of Bliss, the martial Tao prime body did not bring anyone else except Yang Beichen and Heavenly Wolf. That was Avicii and it was useless no matter how many people he brought. Before long, the 2 of them arrived at the teleportation formation. For a successful teleportation, there must be large teleportation formations on both sides. Otherwise, the teleportation would fail. Heavenly Wolf took out a map and compared it carefully. He found a place that was closer to the Pure Land of Bliss where there was also a teleportation formation mark. After determining the location, the martial Tao prime body activated the teleportation formation and the 3 of them disappeared from the fiend domain. After a long time, the 3 of them finally broke free from the feeling of the world spinning and regained their 5 senses. A resplendent light flashed and the 3 of them landed on the ground, arriving at an unfamiliar place. The martial Tao prime body looked around and could not find any traces of a teleportation formation. Heavenly Wolf took out a map and compared it. Something must have happened to this teleportation formation, causing a deviation in our teleportation. However, we're closer to the Pure Land of Bliss. If we continue in this direction, we should be able to reach the Pure Land of Bliss in less than a day and see Great Tai Wei Mountain. Heavenly Wolf pointed in a direction. Great Tai Wei Mountain? The martial Tao prime body frowned slightly. Previously, Heavenly Wolf said that Avicii was on Tai Wei Mountain. What was this Great Tai Wei Mountain? Although the martial Tao prime body had ascended to the upper world for many years, his understanding of the heavenly world was far inferior to Heavenly Wolf. Heavenly Wolf said, "The Pure Land of Bliss is also known as the Pure Land and Meru world. Mount Meru is in the center and is surrounded by 8 mountains with seawater separating the mountains. That's why it's called the 9 mountains and 8 oceans. Great Tai Wei Mountain and Tai Wei Mountain are both part of the 9 mountains. Tai Wei is Sanskrit. In human language, it's called Vajra. Therefore, Tai Wei Mountain is also known as Vajra Mountain and Vajra Wheel Mountain. Chapter 2292, 2292 Ashoka Tree. 2292 Ashoka Tree. Vajra Wheel Mountain. A divine glint flashed through the eyes of the martial Tao prime body when he heard that name. In that case, Great Tai Wei Mountain could also be called Great Vajra Wheel Mountain. In Tianhuang mainland, there was a style in the Mingwang Dharmic seal known as the Great Vajra Wheel seal. The 2 names were identical and should not be a coincidence. The origin of the Great Vajra Wheel seal should have come from Great Vajra Wheel Mountain of the Pure Land of Bliss. On Heavenly Wolf's back, Yang Beichen's eyes were tightly shut and his breathing was feeble. He did not have much life force to begin with and was already extremely weak. After the torment of the teleportation formation, he could no longer withstand it and fainted. The martial Tao prime body scanned with his spirit consciousness and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Yang Beichen's life was temporarily fine. Heavenly Wolf carried the unconscious Yang Beichen and followed behind the martial Tao prime body, recounting many information about the Pure Land of Bliss to the latter. About 2 hours later, a pitch-black thick line appeared in the horizon at the front and extended endlessly. "That's Great Tai Wei Mountain." Heavenly Wolf looked at the black line in the horizon. To be precise, Great Tai Wei Mountain doesn't seem like a mountain peak. Instead, it's more like a mountain range that spans millions of kilometers and revolves around the Pure Land of Bliss. In other words, every living being that wishes to enter the Pure Land of Bliss has to cross this grand Tai Wei Mountain. The Pure Land of Bliss was ranked alongside the 9 firmament Immortal domain and the Fiend domain. How long was this mountain range to be able to surround the entire Pure Land of Bliss? Before long, the martial Tao prime body arrived at the foot of Great Tai Wei Mountain. From afar, one could not understand the grandeur of this mountain range. One could only feel how insignificant they were when they stood at the foot of the mountain. The mountain range was pitch black and looked incomparably tough. It was endless and was even more majestic than the coiling dragon mountain range of divine firmament mainland, emitting a divine might of the Buddhist monasteries. The mountain range was like a sturdy wall that protected the Pure Land and blocked countless evil and filth. All living beings could only reach the Pure Land of the Buddhist monasteries after crossing the wall. Suddenly, the martial Tao prime body raised his fist and punched Great Tai Wei Mountain before him. Bang! The martial Tao prime body used 70% of his strength for that punch, but Great Tai Wei Mountain did not budge at all. In fact, no rocks on the mountain's surface even crumbled. On the other hand, the martial Tao prime body felt pain in his palm. Hee hee. Heavenly Wolf laughed. Great Tai Wei Mountain is impenetrable, indestructible and does not corrode with time. That is why it's called the Vajra. It is as strong as an indestructible diamond. Back then, even in the battle between my old master and more than 20 emperors of the 9 firmament Immortal domain and Pure Land of Bliss, this mountain could not be shaken. It's clear what sort of noble power this mountain possesses. The martial Tao prime body no longer tried and was prepared to ascend the mountain. According to the map, one had to cross Great Tai Wei Mountain and a strait before they could see Tai Wei Mountain. Avicii was in Tai Wei Mountain. I thought of something. Right then, Heavenly Wolf suddenly said, "Actually, we don't have to go under Avicii to save Yang Beichen. Furthermore, even if we obtain the complete Fiend Obsession Buddha Karmic Sutra, we might not be able to save his life. In the heavenly world, immortal herbs and elixirs that can heal essence spirit injuries are extremely rare. There's one in the Pure Land of Bliss called the Ashoka Tree." Ashoka Tree? The martial Tao prime body asked instead, one of the 3 sacred trees of the Buddhist monasteries? The martial Tao prime body was extremely familiar with the Ashoka tree. Back then, Dayu took away a Saraka flower at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley and planted it in his dantian to replace his spirit root. Later on, she even helped him repair his golden core and tide through a calamity. The Buddhist sutras of Tianhuang mainland recorded the legend of the three sacred trees. It was said that Buddha was born beneath the Ashoka tree and obtained his Tao under the Bodhi tree, undergoing nirvana beneath the Sal tree. That was also the reason why the Saraka flower possessed the power of life, allowing Suzimo's shattered golden core to be resurrected. At that thought, a realization flashed through the martial Tao prime body's mind. In other words, the power of life on the Ashoka tree can heal Brother Yang's essence spirit. Heavenly Wolf said, to be precise, only the Saraka fruit can do it. The Saraka fruit is the crystallization of the Ashoka tree's life force and is equivalent to a fruit of life. The other Saraka flowers don't have enough life force. However, physical injuries are naturally no problem for them still. Where's the Ashoka tree? The martial Tao prime body asked again. The Ashoka tree was one of the three sacred trees of the Buddhist monasteries and was definitely guarded by countless accomplished monks. However, it was better than a forbidden ground that even great emperors had to shrink back from. It would naturally be best if they could avoid Avicii. The Ashoka tree was originally on Tai Wei Mountain. When Heavenly Wolf said that, he paused for a moment with a strange expression. Originally? The martial Tao prime body could tell that Heavenly Wolf was implying something and asked with a frown, "What do you mean by that?" Heavenly Wolf said, "The Ashoka tree was originally on Tai Wei Mountain and the entrance to Avicii was not far away. However, the battle between my old master and more than 20 emperors was also on Tai Wei Mountain. The Ashoka tree was implicated and was long shattered. The Ashoka tree is dead." The martial Tao prime body asked. Yes. Heavenly Wolf nodded. A spirit tree like the Ashoka tree was condensed from the fortune of a world. It was similar to the heavenly world's builder tree. At the very least, there could not be a second one in the pure land of bliss. The Ashoka tree hasn't been resurrected after so many years. The martial Tao prime body asked again. Heavenly Wolf shook his head. In that battle back then, the Ashoka tree was shattered and its life force was severed. There was definitely no way it could be resurrected. Pausing for a moment, he continued, although the Ashoka tree is dead, if we can find the scattered Saraka fruit, we can still heal Yang Baichen's essence spirit injuries. I see. The martial Tao prime body remained silent. No matter what, he had to check out Tai Wei Mountain first. The Ashoka tree had once grown there as well and there might be traces of the Saraka fruit on Tai Wei Mountain. I see. Halfway up the peak, the martial Tao prime body suddenly muttered to himself. What? Heavenly Wolf asked instinctively. The martial Tao prime body said, back then, the battle between Emperor Bo-Zun and more than 20 emperors affected a huge area and there's a high chance that a passage to Tianhuang mainland in the lower worlds was accidentally opened up. That's the reason why the two sword arts were left behind in Tianhuang mainland. Because the Ashoka tree was destroyed, the Saraka flower at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley should have floated down from Tai Wei Mountain during the battle that destroyed Bo-Zun. The creation green lotus, the only sacred item in the world, should have been in the upper world. However, it appeared in Tianhuang mainland. That was strange. According to Heavenly Wolf, emperors of the Buddhist monasteries took part in the battle to kill Bo-Zun and suffered immense losses. There was a high chance that the creation green lotus belonged to an emperor of the Buddhist monasteries who died in that battle. Eventually, the creation green lotus and the Saraka flower fell to Tianhuang mainland together. By some freak coincidence, these divine objects of Tianhuang mainland changed the fates of many people, such as the Buddha Emperor and Sword Emperor of the ancient era. However, in this generation, they contributed to Suzimo's rise. Chapter 2293, 2293 Azura Monastery. 2293 Azura Monastery. Great Tai Wei Mountain was extremely tall and the martial Tao prime body and Heavenly Wolf climbed for most of the day without resting. By the time the three of them arrived at the peak, it was already dusk. Not far away stood a row of stone walls that were mottled with time. The stone walls extended endlessly along Great Tai Wei Mountain. Through the stone walls, one could see the corners of some ancient structures that exuded a calm Zen aura. It resembled a monastery. "Where is Tai Wei Mountain?" the martial Tao prime body asked. "Under normal circumstances, we should be able to reach Tai Wei Mountain after crossing Great Tai Wei Mountain and a strait," Heavenly Wolf said. In other words, they had to cross the stone walls if they wanted to continue forward. The martial Tao prime body and Heavenly Wolf took a few steps forward and saw a door. A plaque hung on the door beam with 2 words, Azura Monastery. The martial Tao prime body frowned slightly. Yang Beichen's Tao title was the Azura. To think that there would be an Azura monastery here. Was this a coincidence or was something else at play? Could it be predestined for Yang Beichen to arrive here? "How much do you know about Azura Monastery?" the martial Tao prime body asked. "I'm not sure." Heavenly Wolf shook his head. "Back when I followed my old master and fought against the emperors of the 9 firmament immortal domain and the pure land of bliss here, this monastery did not exist. I wonder when it was established." Under the shroud of twilight, Azura Monastery exuded a sinister aura. Nobody knew anything about Azura Monastery and what grade of sect or faction it was. If it was a black-grade monastery, the situation would be fine. According to the ranking of the Heavenly World's sects, the highest cultivation realm in a black-grade monastery was a grade 9 heaven immortal. That was of no threat to the martial Tao prime body. However, things would be difficult if it was an earth-grade monastery. Being able to reach earth-grade meant that the monastery had a perfected one-realm expert presiding over things. The perfected one realm was divided into 4 levels: Convergence, Celestial Being, Hollow Nether and Paradise Void. Given the current combat strength of the martial Tao prime body, he could only defeat Convergence perfected immortal experts if he attacked with all his might. If he encountered experts at the Celestial Being, Hollow Nether and Paradise Void realms, he could only avoid them for now. The martial Tao prime body pondered for a moment and did not barge in rashly. Instead, he knocked on the monastery door gently. Dong, dong, dong. After knocking a few times, the martial Tao prime body stood in front of the entrance of the monastery and waited patiently. If he wanted to continue forward, he could only pass through Azura Monastery. Before long, hurried footsteps sounded from inside and arrived at the door. "Who's there?" a question sounded from within. The martial Tao prime body said in a deep voice, "I'm Desolate Martial and I get to the pure land of bliss through your monastery. Please make an exception." There was a squeaking sound. The door of the monastery opened slowly and 2 bald monks appeared. They wore monk robes and their cultivation realms were not high, they were only at the Black Immortal realm. The 2 monks sized up the martial Tao prime body and stared at the Mara mask for a long time but could not make out anything. Not only could the Mara mask cover his face, it could also block spirit consciousness detection. Coupled with the fact that the prime body cultivated the martial Tao, even a perfected immortal would not be able to see through the depths of the prime body, let alone the 2 monks whose cultivations were insufficient. The gazes of the 2 monks landed on Heavenly Wolf behind the martial Tao prime body. Heavenly Wolf was gigantic with a ferocious gaze and a murderous aura. The expressions of the 2 monks changed slightly. When the 2 monks looked at Yang Beichen on Heavenly Wolf's back, they frowned at the same time. "Fiend domain cultivators," the 2 monks hollered. Although Yang Beichen was unconscious, he cultivated the Fiend Obsession Sutra, and the Obsession Fiend Chi that maintained the remaining life force in his body was extremely rich. Cultivators of the Fiend domain are not allowed to step foot into the pure land of the Buddhist monasteries. Extreme disgust appeared in the eyes of the 2 monks as they hollered, "Patrons, please leave." With that said, the 2 monks returned to the monastery. The monastery's door closed with a loud boom. The martial Tao prime body stood in front of the closed monastery in silence. There were no emotions beneath his cold silver mask. The conflict between Buddhists and fiends is even more intense than between immortals and fiends. They can barely coexist. Heavenly Wolf said, "In the oldest records, the ancient fiend Bo Zun was born at the same time as the ancient Buddha. It was said that when the Buddha comprehended the Tao beneath the body tree, The ancient fiend Bo-Zun led 8 billion fiends here, and a massive battle between the Buddhists and fiends broke out. The feud between the Buddhists and fiends have been around for a long time and are etched in their bones. The martial Tao prime body had heard of that legend as well. The legendary ancient fiend, Bo-Zun, was the oldest, strongest, and most terrifying fiend. As for this generation's Emperor Bo-Zun, he was truly strong as well. To think that he could comprehend the two dharmic Taos of Buddha and fiend to their limits and reach the realm of Buddha and fiend coexisting. First came the ancient fiend Bo-Zun, followed by Emperor Bo-Zun. The feud between Buddhists and fiends had deepened continuously. Therefore, all disciples of the Buddhist sects were extremely sensitive to any mention of the fiend. Heavenly Wolf said, among the Buddhist cultivators, the fiend domain is considered as filthy soil and is the complete opposite of the pure land of bliss. If they knew that we were from the fiend domain, they would definitely not let us step foot into the pure land of bliss for fear that our filthy aura would contaminate the pure land of bliss. The martial Tao prime body remained silent the entire time. A moment later, he glanced sideways at the unconscious Yang Beichen. Yang Beichen's condition was getting worse and it was unknown how much longer he could last. He did not have much time left. The martial Tao prime body did not wish to continue waiting by their rules. He reached out and pressed on the door of Azura Monastery, exerting strength. Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang, the door of the monastery was shattered by a single palm strike from the martial Tao prime body, crumbling into pieces. Dust billowed and wood shavings splattered everywhere. The two monks from earlier on had yet to leave. When they turned around, they were shocked at what they saw. Neither of them expected that the purple-robed man with the silver mask would dare barge into Azura Monastery. Oh! Heavenly Wolf carried Yang Beichen and passed through the billowing dust, leaping into Azura Monastery murderously. He howled continuously in extreme excitement. Are we going to start a massacre? He could not wait any longer and a ferocious glint flashed through his eyes. Licking his lips with his grisly red tongue, he glared at the two monks not far away and lunged forward with a deep growl. The two monks were only black immortals and Heavenly Wolf was already at the level 1 heaven essence realm. Against the ferocious might of Heavenly Wolf, the two monks were so scared that their legs went limp and they could not move, let alone resist. A tragic stench surged over and the two monks were about to suffocate with despair on their faces. Heavenly Wolf's mouth was about to devour the two monks when he suddenly stopped in midair motionlessly. Oh! Right on the heels of that, Heavenly Wolf shrieked and nearly bit off his tongue. Unknowingly, the martial Tao prime body had arrived behind Heavenly Wolf and reached out, yanking the latter's furry tail back. Heavenly Wolf's pounce was ferocious and he was caught off guard by the sudden attack from the martial Tao prime body behind him. He felt a burning pain on his butt and his tail seemed to be snapped. Oh! Heavenly Wolf roared and turned to look at the martial Tao prime body with a furious gaze. However, when he met with the cold gaze of the martial Tao prime body, he softened instantly and his anger dissipated. He merely blinked and whimpered with an aggrieved expression. Behave yourself. The martial Tao prime body said indifferently, protect Yang Beichen well. You don't have to do anything. Chapter 2294, 2294 His back. 2294 His back. The martial Tao prime body was here to save someone, not to kill. The monks of Azura Monastery were conflicted because of the feud between Buddhists and fiends. However, at the end of the day, the martial Tao prime body did not have any deep feud with these monks. Su Zimo was a scholar. Although his heart was like a ferocious person, he was not a bloodthirsty person. It was different for Heavenly Wolf. He was the seven emotions fiend king to begin with and had followed Emperor Bo-Zun to kill countless people in the fiend domain. Be it in his previous life or now, Heavenly Wolf could be considered as a pure fiend. If Heavenly Wolf were to attack, countless living beings in Azura Monastery would die. The two black immortal monks were scared out of their wits and could only watch helplessly as the martial Tao prime body and the gigantic Heavenly Wolf passed above their heads, not daring to stop them. Who is there? How dare you barge into Azura Monastery? Halt! The commotion caused by the monastery's door shattering spread into the monastery before long. Figures appeared one after another at the front, speeding over with powerful auras. The martial Tao prime body swept his spirit consciousness, and it was clear that the cultivations of these monks were much stronger. However, the strongest of them were only grade 9 earth immortals. "You guys can't stop me. Just disperse," the martial Tao prime body said indifferently and waved his sleeves gently, releasing an incomparably powerful power that enveloped down. The dozens of monks at the front fell from midair before they could arrive. The monks landed on the ground without any injuries. However, everyone seemed to be suppressed by an invisible force of £1 billion and could not soar into the air. They could only watch as the two of them and the wolf continued forward. Amitabha. Before long, the martial Tao prime body heard a divine Sanskrit sound in the world. It sounded slowly with lingering echoes that struck one's heart. The Buddhist proclamation was a secret skill targeted at the Tao heart and wanted to shake the Tao heart of the martial Tao prime body. Because Yang Beichen was unconscious, the Buddhist proclamation had no effect on him. As for Heavenly Wolf, he was once the 7 emotions fiend king and his Tao heart was even more unshakable. The fact that the martial Tao prime body could condense the 10th stone step of the Tao heart stairs meant that such impacts to the Tao heart were nothing to him. In the monastery at the front, figures soared into the air one after another. There were hundreds of monks and they were all heaven immortals. Their leader wielded a Buddhist staff and had a benevolent expression, his eyes filled with compassion. The martial Tao prime body stood above Azura Monastery and released his spirit consciousness that extended continuously, enveloping Azura Monastery completely and reflecting everything in the monastery in his heart. The few accomplished monks with the highest cultivation realms in Azura Monastery were all grade 9 heaven immortals. The old monk in the middle wielded a Buddhist staff. From his attire and bearing, he should be the abbot of Azura Monastery. In other words, Azura Monastery should only be a black grade sect. Of course, deep underground in the monastery ahead, there was a faint but powerful aura of life. However, the life force fluctuation was almost imperceptible, as though it was asleep. Strange. A doubt rose in the heart of the martial Tao prime body. Great Tai Wei Mountain was the border of the Pure Land of Bliss and was the closest to Tai Wei Mountain. This was a unique location. The fact that such a monastery was established here but was only a black-grade faction without any perfected immortal experts was strange to begin with. Patron, the Pure Land of the Buddhist monasteries lies ahead. Please return the way you came. The abbot of Azura Monastery said in a deep voice, Patron, if you're willing to lay down your butcher's knife, Azura Monastery is willing to guide you. You can convert to Buddhism and wash away your filth as well as sever your ties to the mortal world. The abbot of Azura Monastery lowered his head. However, there was a compassionate glint in his eyes and his voice contained a divine might that was deafening, the lowered glance of a bodhisattva. This was a supreme secret skill of the Buddhist monasteries. There was a saying in the Buddhist monasteries that the enraged gaze of the Vajra could not match the lowered gaze of the Bodhisattva. Back then, Buddha could purify many peerless fiends with a single sentence. It was clear how shocking this secret skill was. However, the martial Tao prime body's Tao heart was immovable. Even if Buddha was reborn, it was unknown if the martial Tao prime body could be converted, let alone this abbot of Azura Monastery before them. The martial Tao prime body extended his fair hands that were sparkling like jade and asked, I don't have a blade in my hands. How can I lay down the butcher's knife? The martial Tao prime body barged into Azura Monastery without killing anyone and his hands were not stained with blood. You're wrong. The abbot of Azura Monastery had a calm expression as he smiled gently. The so-called butcher's knife does not refer to the blade in one's hands. Instead, it refers to malice, evil words, and actions. There's also all sorts of delusions, confusion, inversion of facts, attachments, and obsessions. Those are the blades in your heart, patron. The reason why I ask you to lay down the butcher's knife and convert to Buddhism is so that you can let go of your delusions, obsessions, and attachment. In that sense, you can become a Buddha right away. Abbot, have you let go of your attachments? The martial Tao prime body asked indifferently. Without waiting for the abbot of Azura Monastery to reply, The martial Tao Prime Body continued asking, if you've given up on attachments, why are you harping about Buddhists and fiends? Why are you stopping me from entering the pure land of bliss? The abbot of Azura Monastery still had his head lowered. However, the white brows on his eyes twitched slightly. It was clear that he was emotional. Although both parties did not attack, the exchange of words was also a form of clash. This was considered a wise Tao discussion of the Buddhist monasteries. When the abbot of Azura Monastery saw that the martial Tao Prime Body could react so quickly and say that, he knew that the other party's comprehension of Buddhism was definitely not weaker than his. I'm here with no ill intentions. I'm only here to save someone. The martial Tao Prime Body continued, there's a saying in the Buddhist sutras that saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda. If you refuse to let me into the pure land of bliss because of your attachments, the blade in your heart is the true invisible killer. If you insist on stopping me, abbot, your obsession is probably not weaker than mine. The abbot of Azura Monastery took a deep breath and tried his best to compose himself as he recited sutras to calm himself down. Against the sharpness of the martial Tao Prime Body, his Tao heart had already wavered. The martial Tao Prime Body continued, in addition, I'm puzzled. A supreme fiend who has killed countless people can become a Buddha the moment he lays down his butcher's knife. What about the innocent souls that died in his hands? Some people have done countless good deeds. However, as long as they commit a mistake, they will be scolded by thousands of people immediately, let alone given a chance to convert to Buddhism. What logic is that? Why are you guys so benevolent to fiends while so harsh to all other living beings in the world? Those words were like sharp swords that pierced the Tao heart of the abbot of Azura Monastery. His accusations shook the foundational beliefs of many Buddhist monks. The abbot of Azura Monastery's expression changed starkly and his body swayed, almost unable to stand in midair. He looked at the martial Tao Prime Body with fear in his eyes. The silver mask of the martial Tao Prime Body was cold the entire time and he did not reveal any emotions. However, at that moment, the abbot of Azura Monastery seemed to be able to see the dignified, divine and benevolent face of a Dharma characteristic on the silver mask. A halo seemed to blossom behind the head of the martial Tao Prime Body and Buddhist light enveloped it. However, the eyes of the martial Tao Prime Body were deep as an abyss, as though they contained immense fiend power. A Buddha from the fiend domain. The abbot of Azura Monastery's voice trembled slightly. A Buddha and fiend within the same body, coexisting as one. In the memories of Azura Monastery, the last person from the fiend domain who had such an understanding of Buddhism was the legendary Emperor Bo-Zun. His back. His back. The abbot of Azura Monastery roared as though he had gone mad. Bo-Zun is back. Chapter 2295, 2295 Complete Defeat. 2295 Complete Defeat. Abbot. The monks exclaimed. The abbot of Azura Monastery was in a daze and had already fallen into a frenzied state. The compassion in his eyes vanished, leaving only endless panic and fear. All the monks had naturally heard of the Bo-Zun mentioned by the abbot of Azura Monastery. However, Emperor Bo-Zun had already died in Avicii for many years. How could he revive? Furthermore, although the purple-robed man before them wore a silver mask and looked mysterious, he was far from an expert like Emperor Bo-Zun. Although everyone from Azura Monastery could not tell the cultivation realm of the martial Tao Prime Body, they could sense that Heavenly Wolf was only a Grade 1 Heaven Immortal and was of no threat. With a mount that was only a Grade 1 Heaven Immortal, it could be deduced that the purple-robed man's cultivation realm was definitely not too high. At the very least, it would not exceed the Heaven Essence realm. How dare you, fiend! How dare you confuse the masses with your demonic words in the pure land of the Buddhist monasteries? Another Grade 9 Heaven Immortal monk made a prompt decision and said in a deep voice, "Monks of Azura Monastery, listen up and join forces to suppress this fiend." The monks agreed and hundreds of Heaven Immortal monks summoned their heaven-grade dharmic treasures one after another, releasing divine powers and secret skills that blanketed the skies as they surged over. Wind and rain. Bean soldiers. 3 heads 6 arms. Buddha dragon elephant. Supreme divine powers burst forth one after another, and the energy fluctuation derived swept in all directions, causing the world to change and dust to fly. The chants of the Buddhas were endless and divine, as though they wanted to cleanse the world of all evil and filth. Heavenly Wolf was proficient in fiend techniques and was the most resistant against such divine powers and sacred Sanskrit of the Buddhist monasteries. However, although he was the 7 emotions fiend king in his previous life, his current cultivation was only at grade 1 heaven immortal. The divine might released by the supreme divine powers of the Buddhist monasteries made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Heavenly Wolf growled repeatedly uneasily. The eyes of the martial Tao prime body were deep and there was no expression on his cold silver mask. He stood motionlessly in midair and 9 purple halos burst forth behind him. Every single halo was intertwined with endless mysterious runes that condensed the will of the martial Tao. The power in the body of the martial Tao prime body rose continuously and his aura surged. The world seemed to have stopped. All the dharmic treasures and divine powers were motionless in midair. After a brief pause, the 9 fate rings blossomed and released countless mysterious runes. Purple chi spread and swept through everything. No matter the grade, many dharmic treasures were repelled by the 9 fate rings of the martial Tao prime body. Many supreme divine powers of the Buddhist monasteries were suppressed by the power released by the 9 fate rings as well and dissipated on the spot, turning into heaven and earth essence chi. The monks of Azura Monastery were shocked. So many heaven immortal experts attacked at the same time, but they were all defeated by a single move from the purple-robed cultivator before them. In fact, the monks of Azura Monastery did not even know what the 9 purple halos surrounded by mysterious runes were. Could he be a perfected fiend? The hearts of the few grade 9 heaven immortal monks skipped a beat. Right then, the martial Tao prime body suddenly spoke and roared. Myriad beings sound. It was as though there was a dragon's roar, a phoenix's cry, a crane's cry, a horse's neigh, a wolf's howl, an ape's cry, a tiger's roar and a dog's bark. The cries of all living beings in the world interweaved and gathered at that moment, forming a roar that reverberated through the 9 heavens and shook the world. After the martial Tao prime body created this sound domain secret skill, he had only used it once. This sound domain secret skill was extremely powerful and was condensed by the prime body after he synthesized countless sound domain secret skills. In fact, it was even more terrifying than the dragon roar secret skill of the green lotus true body. This time round, the martial Tao prime body merely released 60% of his full strength. Even so, it was a devastating blow to the hundreds of Azura monastery monks before him. The Buddha chants and the roars of dragons and tigers dissipated instantly. Poof, poof, poof. Some low-level heaven immortals could not withstand it at all and spat out blood, falling from midair uncontrollably. Although the few grade 9 heaven immortals of Azura Monastery managed to defend against it, they felt their ears sting and their minds buzzed. Their minds went blank and they lost consciousness for the time being. The monks were utterly defeated. At the same time, something deep underground in the Azura hall ahead seemed to have been awakened by the myriad beings' sound and released an incomparably domineering life fluctuation. Boom! The ground of Azura Monastery trembled as well. In the depths of Azura Monastery, there was an unassuming tomb where some Azura Monastery monks who had passed away were buried. Beside the tomb, there was an extremely simple straw hut that was on the verge of collapse, as though it would fall apart with a single gust of wind. The straw hut was short and dilapidated, not much different from the tombs beside it. It had no door and it was empty and pitch black inside. Right then, an old monk walked out slowly from the entrance of the straw hut. He wore a pitch-black monk robe and had no beard. However, his white brows were so long that they almost reached his shoulders. The old monk was scrawny and slightly hunched, making him look short. His face was filled with wrinkles and his eyes were cloudy. He raised his head and glanced in the direction of the myriad beings' sound before retracting his gaze. Arriving before a tomb, the old monk bent down slightly and removed the weeds around the tomb to clean it up. A tombstone stood on the tomb. The strange thing was that the tombstone was blank without any words. Suddenly, the old monk did something strange. Extending his withered hands, he gripped the edge of the tombstone and leaped up gently, climbing up slowly. Thereafter, the old monk tried his best to do a flip as he sat on the tombstone. With his back facing Azura Monastery, he gazed in the direction of the pure land of bliss in a daze. Azura Monastery. The martial Tao Prime body merely released 9 fate rings and myriad beings sound without using his full strength. However, the monks of Azura Monastery were already wailing and could not defend against it. Fiend, even if you enter the pure land of bliss, arhats of the Buddhist monasteries will come and stop you. You won't be able to get far. A grade 9 heaven immortal monk hollered. Arhats were comparable to perfected immortals of the 9 firmament immortal domain and perfected fiends of the fiend domain. Despite the difference in their titles, they were all perfected one-realm cultivators. Is that so? The martial Tao Prime body said indifferently, if they come, tell them to look for me in Avicii. Avicii. Upon hearing that word, the monks of Azura Monastery could not help but shudder. Naturally, they did not think that the martial Tao Prime body would truly head to Avicii. After all, that was a forbidden ground that even great emperors would shrink back from. Throughout history, countless experts have been buried. Fiend, what is your purpose of barging into Azura Monastery and attempting to enter the pure land of bliss? A monk of Azura Monastery questioned loudly. The martial Tao Prime body passed by the monks of Azura Monastery and suddenly paused. After pondering for a moment, he said, if your monastery has the Saraka fruit, I can leave and not take a single step into the pure land of bliss. The Saraka fruit. A monk glared at him and shouted, Fiend, you're here because you want the sacred item of the Buddhist monasteries, the Saraka fruit. We must not let him pass. Hurry and awaken it and release it to kill this fiend. Chapter 2296, 2296 Battling the Azura. 2296 Battling the Azura. Upon receiving the order, the monks guarding the main hall of Azura Monastery channeled their secret skills without any delays and released spirit lights into the ground of the main hall. Dong. There was a deafening bang. It was as though a terrifying life form was rising beneath Azura Monastery's main hall and was about to break out of the ground. The martial Tao Prime body was expressionless as he advanced with Heavenly Wolf following closely behind. No matter what danger you encounter, you just have to remember to protect Yang Beichen and leave. Don't worry about me. The martial Tao Prime body sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. All right. Heavenly Wolf agreed without hesitation. As he spoke, the martial Tao Prime body had already arrived before the main hall of Azura Monastery. Boom. 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 Suddenly, gigantic cracks appeared on the ground of Azura Monastery's main hall and dust billowed. 2 thick arms extended from within. Splash. Immediately after, the 2 arms pushed against the ground and a tall figure burst forth. It was so tall that it penetrated the dome of Azura Monastery's main hall. The figure was like an iron tower with rusty chains coiled around his body. Half naked, he exuded a savage and violent aura. The gigantic living being had a similar appearance to humans. However, it was extremely ugly and had 2 horns on its head that were slightly curved and extremely sharp. Roar. The living being widened its eyes and let out a deafening roar in the direction of the martial Tao Prime body, causing air currents to surge. The main hall of Azura Monastery shook continuously against the roar and could collapse at any moment. When the living being roared, its blood chi surged and gigantic green veins popped up on its neck like coiled anaconda snakes. It was extremely terrifying. His physique is very strong. Before the martial Tao Prime body fought, he could already sense the terrifying blood chi and powerful physique of the living being. The martial Tao Prime body swept his spirit consciousness across but could not tell the cultivation realm of the living being. What race is that? The martial Tao Prime body asked with a frown. It's the Azura. Heavenly Wolf glared at the tall figure not far away and said sternly, the Azura race is unlike humans, demons, ghosts, or gods. However, they are innately strong and possess extremely powerful combat strength. Their race cultivates differently from the other races and outsiders can't detect their cultivation. However, if the Azura race enters the perfected one realm, there will be obvious changes. They will grow an additional head and 2 more arms. If they advance to the Grotto Heaven realm and become Azura kings, they will gain 3 heads and 6 arms. 3 heads and 6 arms? The martial Tao prime body murmured. That's right. Heavenly Wolf said, the supreme divine power, 3 heads 6 arms, originated from the Azura race. If the Azura race advances to the Emperor realm, their number of heads won't increase. However, they will grow another pair of arms and become 8-armed Asuras. The martial Tao prime body did not know much about the Azura race and had never seen them before in Tianhuang mainland. Among the 6 paths of reincarnation, there was the Azura Tao, and he did not know what it had to do with the Azura race. However, when the martial Tao prime body knew the origin of the living being before him, he understood why this monastery was called Azura Monastery. Heavenly Wolf said, Master, you can't be careless. The Azura race has an extremely strong physique, bloodline, and combat strength. They're definitely not weaker than the dragon and god races. Kill that fiend. A few monks of Azura Monastery shouted at the Azura. The Azura roared repeatedly and broke through the hall of Azura Monastery, charging towards the martial Tao prime body in huge strides. 9 fate rings condensed behind the martial Tao prime body and his gaze intensified. Without retreating or dodging, he charged towards the Azura and punch. Compared to the indomitable Azura, the figure of the martial Tao prime body looked incomparably tiny. His counterattack was akin to striking a stone with an egg. However, the power and will released by the martial Tao prime body's punch was robust and majestic like a mountain, a deep sea, a volcano, and a tsunami. It was impossible to describe the pressure felt against that punch unless one was standing directly opposite the martial Tao prime body. A grim expression appeared on the Azura's face as well. Roar! He growled and raised his gigantic and tough fist as well, smashing down like a hammer against the fist of the martial Tao prime body. Bang! The fists collided and a dull thud sounded in midair, causing the world to tremble. The aftershock of the collision almost materialized and spread in all directions like ripples. Many structures in Azura Monastery collapsed one after another as dust billowed. The monks looked up at the 2 figures in midair with shocked expressions. They had not expected that the seemingly insignificant purple-robed man would be able to receive the Azura's fist in melee combat. What was that person's physique? Before the thought of Azura Monastery's monks dissipated, the Azura staggered 2 steps back in midair with a pained expression and cried out in agony. However, the purple-robed man remained unmoved and his silver mask was cold as ever. The Azura was defeated in melee combat. Everyone from Azura Monastery looked at everything in disbelief. Heavenly Wolf laughed. We're quite lucky. This Azura only has 2 arms and his cultivation has yet to reach the perfected 1 realm. Ah, ah, ah. The Azura roared repeatedly and waved his arms, causing 2 more arms to grow beneath his armpit. Heavenly Wolf's smile gradually froze on his face. The eyes of the martial Tao prime body focused. The 2 new arms of the Azura were rather skinny and had clearly not grown to their peak. In other words, although this Azura had entered the perfected 1 realm, his combat strength was not at the peak of the perfected 1 realm. At that thought, the martial Tao prime body did not wait for the Azura to accumulate his strength. Suddenly, he took a step forward and punched again, taking the initiative to hammer the Azura. At the same time, the blood chi of the martial Tao prime body surged with the sound of a tsunami. That punch was way too ferocious. The Azura's aura was completely suppressed by the martial Tao prime body. His eyes widened in rage as he crossed his arms high in front of him. The muscles on his arms were knotted like molten metal and shone with a metallic luster, filled with an explosive power. Boom! The fist of the martial Tao prime body smashed down like a meteor and let out a loud bang. The Azura grunted dully and his tall body was smashed shorter. His legs buckled and he nearly knelt on the ground. When the martial Tao prime body channeled his blood chi, the Azura could no longer defend. The martial Tao prime body did not give the Azura any chance to catch his breath and took another step forward. He strode forward with the stance of plow heaven stride. Boom! That stomp trampled on the Azura's arms once more. Poof! 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 Massive blood mists burst forth from the Azura's arms as he was trampled beneath the foot of the martial Tao prime body. With a boom, he knelt in the ruins and blood spewed from his nose and mouth. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.